going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Friday night Boys in the Big Apple podcast. I know I look like a Marine right now, but, it was time for a haircut. I'm trying to adjust my camera right here.
So do I.
Yeah. Having a big night planned in terms of topics, as we always do. We have 3 different guests, which we have never done before. Different segments, different times. First, we're going to do a baseball topic, Yankees-centered, really, because there's a lot to talk about there, especially after last night. And then maybe around 9:30, 9:20, whatever the time is that our guests get here, or our other guests get here, we're going into Giants-Jets preview for tomorrow, as well as other NFL topics. I know the preseason is going on right now. The Bills and the Lions, and also the Titans and the Atlanta Falcons. Real quickly, Luca, how are you doing? Just as a formal announcement, as he said last week, Sean's not going to be on tonight, but that's okay. There's not going to be a week on the Boys in the Big Apple podcast where you will not have me. So,
right. So I'm doing very well, keeping up with Summer League. Jets football is almost on its way. Tomorrow will be Jets versus Giants. I'm excited to talk about that in preseason in general, along with the NFL. I'm also excited to talk Yankees and have a big discussion.
Yeah, so just to headline some guests throughout the night, Pete Simonetti of NYJ News is supposed to be joining us actually very shortly, within the next 2 to 3 minutes. Around 9:20, 9:30 is when the Hub will join us. He's going to be on my side for that, and then Ali from Loyal NYJet Fans will be joining Luca. So that way we have a conversation, an intelligent conversation about tomorrow, no bias. But obviously Luca likes to talk trash, as he has done this whole week to me independently. He's never said it on screen. But we'll also talk just, even though we have our baseball, our basketball, and our football topics lined up, I do want to get into FanFest a little bit when we get to Kush and all those other guys, because both of us had a pretty good time. Nonetheless, that you were a Jets fan and you were basically some of the center of the conversation that happened there. But it was a really fun time. Real quickly, I would like to actually just, as I did how many times, thank all the people who came out to the Kansas City Royals Yankees stream that happened on Tuesday. We hit 361 views. That is a lot for a stream of this caliber on this channel. And I just can't thank you guys enough. I was very emotional. I tried keeping it unbiased, but when that voice error happened, you know what? Some things you can't just keep in, you can't keep level. Some things like that.
Some things you can't keep in.
I was looking for the words, and you just gave them right to me. But I'm really excited to and. What was I going to say? Shouts to Pete. He did just actually shout us out on Twitter. So hopefully he should be joining in shortly. And we got some Yankee news other than the fact they lost last night. Is the fact that, Luis Severino's not starting his rehab start. Is that due to rain, or is that due to an injury? Luca, what do you think?
It's not due to rain, because I'll tell you why. Somebody else was put in this place. I got to look up who exactly it was.
Well, I'm not saying that it was postponed. All I'm saying is they didn't want to give him a limited amount of time, or that stuff. With that being said, though,
Bristow will come in his place.
Okay. With that being said, though, I do want to welcome on Pete Simonetti of NYJ News. What's going on, man? Real quickly before I let you say your piece, your rant was absolutely on point last night.
Yeah,
and this ain't rubbing anybody off. This isn't Michael Kay and Aaron Boone here. But in terms of that, you were spot on, and I think that there was a lot of Yankee fans out there. There's a lot of content creators out there, and I face this with another community that I really create content for. But real quickly, and I know I'm rambling here. This team is still not perfect, and it's still not, in my opinion, should be up to expectation. There's so much things wrong with this team, and I even said in your chat last night, Boone is micromanaging things more than he is managing, and people take it as one loss, which is their prerogative, their opinion, whatever. I just think that this could have been the greatest comeback of the year, and it did mean a lot. But maybe we turn a bad corner now. I don't know. And it also the fact is that like what was it, Tuesday and Wednesday? Tuesday we had that loss against the Royals, and then the next day, yeah, we won the series, but there were 7 errors in 2 days. So you want to give your thoughts on the whole Yankee perspective?
Yeah, I appreciate you guys checking out the live also. So also thank you for having me on. I appreciate it. I'm right there with you when it comes to a lot of content creators out there. And everybody got an opinion, you know, and that's fine and cool. My opinion is, look, I grew up during a dynasty. You know, I grew up during a wonderful time, and hell, people could say, well, we're spoiled Yankee fans, but that's okay. You know what I mean? That's fine. We are also the Yankees. You know, we're the greatest sports franchise that ever existed. The most championships, and I hold that standard to this day. And I just expect them to hold the same standard. And, you know, when people bring up the fact that, you know, it's a loss, right? It's one loss. But like you even said, it was likely the best comeback win possibly of the year, bar none. It would have been great. Now, you know, people also bring up the fact, well, you know, if Britain closed that game out, what do you say? I don't say anything. You know what I mean? They got the victory. They won. Great. That's nice. But my concern in something like that, and as I expressed the other day, and we've seen this happen a lot, is when your ball club does something that they did yesterday in this beautiful environment, this Field of Dreams game, which was so nice to see, and baseball did a tremendous job on it, you don't go to your best in that situation. And everybody knows the best relief pitcher for the Yankees this year has been Jonathan Loáisiga. Zach Britton, even the starts that he had, that he was decent. He got good double plays to get out of a jam he put himself in. In a one-run lead, like somebody said, oh, well, he's a ground ball pitcher. You know, he doesn't give him home runs. That's still not the guy you want in there in that moment. So my whole beef with the situation was that you have to go to your best, especially in a situation like that. And, you know, Boone doesn't do it. And, you know, he gets a lot of the excuse from the fans that, well, Pete, you know, he's not making the calls and all that. And my only thing with that is, then at some point you got to die in your own shield. You can't let another man cost you your job. You got to do it yourself. You got to be a man and step up and go, well, look, I don't know if you guys know this, but we've been doing a couple of podcasts recently with Ozzie Guillen Jr.
Yeah.
And Ozzie Guillen Jr. said flat out, he's very familiar with Aaron Boone. Aaron Boone's a good guy. He's a smart baseball man. The problem is he's accepted a job on the basis of the front office will have a lot to do with what happens and what is said and done. He at some point then needs to step up and go, look, I know my players. I know the game. I got to have a little more decision in this because it's not happening, and it's pretty damn obvious when you watch these games. So, you know, they're 7 out of the division. They're 2 out of the wild card. Definitely not out of it. But like you said, you know, yesterday's game could be a downward spiral, or it could be a blip on the map and they come right back. I don't like losing games like that.
Real quickly, I do want to shout out Nate in the chat. Terry says Britton had no right being in the game last night. He's been trashed since he came back. Jonathan Loáisiga and Britton had pitched the night before. Both had the same pitch counts, which is a point to bring up. And once again, I'll let Luca speak in just a second, but we had an off day today. I mean, it's not like – and Loáisiga has gone deep before. And this wasn't really remarked on because, once again, it's one loss. My biggest issue, one of the biggest issues that came out of Tuesday's loss against the Royals, we traded for Joely Rodriguez in the Gallo trade. He pitched 9 pitches in 2 of the third innings. They bring in Nick Nelson when they have 0 bullpen depth, and he pitches 26 in 1 inning and gives up a run. Not saying it was his fault, because I was pretty pissed off when Voit made that error at first.
Right.
Because I'm like, you know, that's the 4th error of the game. But when you do that, you I don't care who it is, the front office, this person, that person, whatever. We don't have any pitchers the next day. Sure, whether Nelson's bad or good or not, I'm not a fan of him, but that's still another pitcher for the next day. So, Luca, I know you had some words to say on the topic.
No, I was going to say, like, we were talking about how Britton was pitching last night and how Yankee fans were going after Boone and all, and I was talking with Sean about that, and Sean's like, you know, Loáisiga had pitched yesterday, well, meaning the game before yesterday, and, you know, he doesn't do good on second straight days. Terry mentioned in the chat, Jonathan Loáisiga and Britton pitched the night before and had the same pitch counts. What's the excuse now? I mean, seriously. I mean,
there is none.
There is none. I mean, I'm to the point with this season where I don't care who you blame. It's just a devastating loss.
Right, and here's the thing that people got to remember. And throughout the season, there's a lot of Yankee fans that honestly are very comfortable with losing. And I don't get it. They're tipping their cap to Tim Anderson. Oh, look, Tim Anderson beat us. Beautiful. Who gives
I saw your
curse.
thing.
I'm not going to try to curse. I don't want to curse on your show.
No. Don't worry about it. We do all the time.
I'm just saying, who gives a shit? A loss is a loss. I remember an interview with Derek Jeter not that long ago. And they're sitting there trying to get Jeter to be like, it's okay to lose that way, right? And Jeter's sitting there saying, the guy goes, well, game 7. What if you go to game 7 and lose? Jeter's like, oh, man, it's a loss. I don't care how we lose. We lost. So my other thing is, too, there comes a point of the season. Aaron Boone has managed this team all year like they're 10 games in first place, and they're not. All season long, he has managed his club that way. That's my issue. Last night, you're in August. We're not in May. We're not in June. We're not in July. We're in August. We're not in the playoffs right now. Every game going forward is a must-win. There's a show, Being Guillen, with all the Guillen kids and Ozzie Guillen on it. Watched it yesterday. And one of the things they asked him, they said, Ozzie, so when you're in a wild card spot, what can't you do? And Ozzie Guillen flat out said you can't give games away and you can't try things in August. You can't try to bring a relief pitcher back in a game where you have to win. You can't do that. You can't say, hey, we're trying to get Britton sharp because we need him in the postseason. You may not get there. You can't do that. You may not get to that point. So the fact of the matter is, when it's August, you can't manage the way you would manage in May or June or July. You can't do that. This team is not in the postseason right now. Season ends tomorrow. I know that's a little hypothetical. It doesn't end tomorrow. Season ends tomorrow. This team's not in the playoffs. You're going to look at these games then and go, I wonder what would have happened if this. Nobody wants to wonder. Nobody wants to wonder. If Boone yesterday and then his comment after the game, I mean, this one stung a little? What is that? Stung a little? You're the manager of the Yankees. You're not in the playoffs, my man. What are you doing? Show a little emotion. I mean, you should go over there and pat all the White Sox on the butt and say, good game, boys. Thank you. I mean, it just aggravates the hell out of me because, in August, you can't fool around like this. And, to see so many Yankee fans on Twitter, I'm not the biggest follower on Twitter. I got about 4,500 followers, and the YouTube channel's doing well, and we're building ourselves up quite a bit. But I mean, at the end of the day, I don't ask people to agree with everything I say, not at all. But at the end of the day, let's be legit about something. One, these are facts. They're not in the playoffs right now.
Absolutely.
That's the biggest fact in the world. They're not there right now. And if you watch this game, you can't tell me that this manager has managed this team with any urgency at all. Like you said, Nick Nelson in games. How many times has he done that? They start Nick Nelson on 12-hour notice. I mean, they call up guys. You see guys enter games that every fan in the world are putting their hands up saying, what are you doing? And they still do it. And we're just fans. We're not in the dugout. So that's the thing that really gets to me is that this team has all the potential to win. They do. They have all of it. I just feel they got the wrong guy at the helm.
Real quickly, I do want to also acknowledge some other comments in the chat before I make my own point. Shouts to Arby. What's up, guys? First-time listener showing support to you guys and my man Pete. That's good. Shouts to Arby. Terry says they'd be 20 games over 500 if they held these leads. And I like listen, there's very little, and I remark on this all the time, I come across Giants content creators with the same issue. There is very little people in the media that like try to build their own stuff, like you are, Pete, that actually call out the beat writers.
Yeah.
Okay. You said, you were talking about, obviously, the biggest thing that set you off was the comment, besides the loss.
That's the main thing almost. That's almost the main thing. Yeah. That really set me off because, like I told everybody, and I wasn't going to rant at all. I wasn't hot. I wasn't hot about the game. I said, I wouldn't have made that move. But then he comes out, it's kind of like a smack in the face of fans who actually care. Yeah. And that's what gets me.
Yeah. In such a big game like that.
Sorry to interrupt. It's like if you watch it, it's like Don LaGreca's one brand on Aaron Boone. Do you really fit fans are that stupid?
Yeah, exactly. I talked about him yesterday in a rant. I said, man, Don, like I would love to sit in a room with Don LaGreca, and I don't watch the Michael Kay show too much. I know Michael Kay likes to say, yeah, Aaron Boone's a nice guy. Who gives a shit? I mean, what does that do for me? What does that do for any of us? That Boone's he is a. I bet he is. I bet he's a wonderful man. I bet he's a smart guy. I bet he will walk an elderly lady across the street anytime she needs it. That seems like the type of guy he is. He's a good guy. That does nothing for me as the manager of the Yankees. I'm sorry. It does nothing for me based off his decisions he makes. And if he's not making them, like I said before, he needs to man up and do something about that.
And, you know, about going back to the thing about the beat writers, and obviously, once again, people can make the excuses. Well, it's not excuses, reasons, whatever. Oh, well, you know, a manager in baseball doesn't do this much anymore as they did how many years ago. I get that point. But at least give non-corporate answers. And for, you know,
pressing, that's our point.
Yeah. And, you know, the beat media.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I have a point to bring up, which I was listening to WFAN earlier. You continue. I'll tell about it once you're done. Okay. And that my friend brought this up. We are the biggest media capital in the nation, if not the world, when it comes to sports. Mm-hmm. You're supposed to feel the pressure. You know, this, that, and the other thing. I've only seen him been pressured once, and that was by Brian Hoke, and he didn't even go too far. He said, are you comfortable with losing? He obviously said, get the hell out of here. Like, enough with the cupcake questions. And this is, in my honest opinion, it's because of, you know, people work for these companies, and these companies tell them what to do. Yeah. Or, because I really can't fathom the fact that it's a lack of creativity. Because as a fan, you know what questions to ask, even though you're not in the room. As a reporter, you probably know the questions to ask, but your company gives them to you, and then you obviously look like a total asshole in the press conference. Yeah. But it's just like, this is the media capital of the world, and you're asking him these bullshit questions and not even pressuring him. Like, fuck what's happening upstairs in the front office. He's the line from the fans to the manager is the media, but you're not pressuring him. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
No, I've seen it all year. I've called it out all year, and trust me, I go back and forth with Brian Hoke, a few other guys on the Yankees B team, that we talk nice. But look, I've messaged them directly and just asked about it. I was also told at times after your first question's in, you're on silent. You can't do a follow-up. So that's Jason Zillow and those guys in the back on the PR side that kind of cut you off from even going deeper. So, you know, a lot of that is that. But if me personally, I know the case, my first question is immediate target question. If that's how you're going to limit us, and this team is doing what they're doing on the field, you can ask. I mean, just watching the team, you could ask Boone so many. Why is your team so impaired? That's one immediately. Every time there's been Boone, going back since when he took over this club. They come out of spring training like they didn't practice nothing. Nobody's ever benched. Nobody. Gleyber Torres could skip down the line, take a break in the middle of it, do a cartwheel, then continue going to the line, and Aaron Boone will pat him on the butt, say, baby, it's all right, no big deal, don't worry about it. All year he's done this. They make mental mistakes on the bases. Sometimes they look like they don't know what the hell they're doing in the field. That, again, I remember they talked about this on the Yes Network. And these guys had the balls to say, oh, well, that's on the player development team. Then what the hell is the managers and the coaches here? Who are they?
I guess they serve no purpose then.
Exactly. We talked to Gary Sheffield Jr. about that. He brought up a great point. He said at some point, you know, though the coach becomes like the parent. When sometimes you got to remind the player, you got to say, hey, look, that can't happen. We got to sit you down. Take a seat. We'll talk about this later, but you're out of this game. Aaron Boone's not that guy because he's brought in to be a therapist. He's not brought in to be a manager. I don't know if you guys saw this, but this sums up the Yankees coaching extremely well. Marcus Timms did an interview, and I feel like the Yes Network tried to dispose of this interview, but it's out there. You can find the transcripts for it. He literally in an interview said the way they coach Gleyber Torres is to sit down with him and tell him, you are the best shortstop and you have to believe that. And that we have nobody else under you, and you're the only hope for us, and you are really good. That's what they tell him. They sit down with him and literally have a therapy session and say, hey, you got to believe in yourself. You're great. You can do this. They don't sit there and see the video that we watched that his timing is completely off. They're not doing – what are they doing here? So that's my concern as a fan. I mean, the beat writers don't do that. I mean, they're more worried about if Aaron Judge has been vaccinated than if Aaron Judge hasn't hit a lot of homers this year. And look, I'm not looking to make anything about vaccine. I don't care. My whole thing is they're asking questions like that before they're asking serious questions about the club on the field. That's when I have an issue with it. Because like you said, they bring us into the room, right? That's what they do for fans. They're supposed to bring us into the room and what's going on with the club. They don't do that. They don't do it.
Real quickly, this was actually shortly before we went live. Severino's rehab started with scratch. Any word of the delay? I don't know the reason. They put in Braden Bristow shortly, I should say, after, I guess, they postponed it. So this is the second time they did that, actually. Because last Sunday, and I as I'm talking about it, I might as well display it. Last Sunday, all three of us, even the co-host who's not here, went to the Hudson Valley Renegades game against the Cyclones. He was supposed to start that game. Meredith Marakovitz even said it. Then last minute, I woke up. My friend tells me, hey, listen, they're not starting him. They're going to start somebody else. And I'm like, you got to be fucking kidding me. But anyway, it was a good experience, even though we're talking on the negative. It was a good experience. We got seats right by the dugout. Anthony Volpe's family was there. He didn't do too bad that night. I actually got a ball that at least have 7 to 8 signatures from the team, because once they walk out of the stadium, it's free reign. There's no security guards or nothing like that. So some players that are on this baseball, Anthony Volpe included, Pat DeMarco, Andre Chaparro, Nick Ernst, Charlie Ruger, I think his name is. He has a big mustache. And one of the most important ones to me is Randy Vasquez, the guy who started that game, who almost went to the Rangers in that Gallo trade. But that was a pretty fun time. But it's real. Let me quickly get to this question. If and when Sevy and Monty and Kluber come back, they can't be really thinking of putting Heaney in the pen. I just can't imagine him in a one-run game. He's terrible. That's actually what I was going to ask you about, and I don't know if Luca had any words, but he could probably go after. What do you think of this Heaney deal? And just give us your thoughts on it.
I'm okay with the deal. A lot of people are upset about what they're seeing from Heaney, but I'm okay with Cashman going out there and trying to do something, trying to add somebody, because what people got to remember is, a couple of years ago, he almost came close to acquiring, who was the lefty out of Robbie Ray, a couple of years ago, and Robbie Ray has now turned into a very legitimate starting pitcher. I'm not saying that that's the same track on Heaney. What I'm saying is, at the deadline, he kind of touched on everything this team needed. He touched on contact in the lineup. He touched on a guy like Gallo, who gets on base a ton. Whether you don't like the batting average or not, the guy gets on base a lot. He wouldn't have been a game changer by himself, but adding Rizzo made both of them become really a game changer, because Rizzo kind of makes up for his strikeouts. He puts the ball in play a lot. And then they obviously touched on the bullpen with Clay Holmes and Joely Rodriguez. So they did a lot of things. They touched on the rotation a little bit to see if maybe this guy would catch a spark with us. And, as that comment said, you don't really would like him maybe in a one-run game. No, not that. But, hell, in the postseason, if you need to get a lefty out, maybe 2 of the 3 guys are lefties, I'm okay with maybe an Andrew Heaney going out to doing it, because the one thing he does do is strike batters out. He misses bats. Whether it looks cute or not, he does it. And, look, the Yankees got no obligation to this guy. He's going to be a free agent. So the Yankees could tell him tomorrow, hey, look, you're not starting for us no more. We want to try to use you this way going forward. And that might be the best option for him. But I'm not against the deal just because of that. I'd rather it be that than the year they just got Alfredo Garcia. Who the hell knows who the hell Alfredo Garcia is, but it's a big boost on a club. And I truly believe that's why this team was playing so well, because Cashman did his part to say, I believe in you guys. I think we can win. I'm going to give you all these reinforcements. Now let's go play on the field. And they have been a better club.
Luca, anything?
Well, I was going to add that that Yankees fans should also blame Cashman, because he put this team in the position with the roster they built. You can give him credit for the reinforcements of Gallo and Rizzo and whoever, but he put his team in this position with adding the Brunette Odor, who sucked in the first half. All these different guys who didn't live up to expectations. Mike Tauchman was eventually, traded away. Mike Ford is gone. Tyler Stroud is gone. Look at all those guys. They were one-year wonders, and they relied on them to be the 2019 selves, but that's what really didn't happen. So you can give credit to Cashman and all them for the reinforcements, but don't forget what Dick Cashman did to put us in this position where he had to get somebody.
Yeah, no, of course. I agree with you. What I'm talking about truly is just the deadline part of actually getting the reinforcements to the club. But you're right. Look, we were joking the other day that AJ Preller goes out there, and his mindset is, I'm going to get the best player. We'll figure out a position for him. The Yankees try to do that, but they get DHs. They don't get guys where you can actually move guys around. So this roster is 150% on Brian Cashman, no doubt about it. At the beginning of the year, the long contract to a guy like Aaron Hicks, who I guess the analytic people absolutely love and adore. So I was even telling friends the other day, they kept telling me, who's going to be the center fielder next year? What are they going to do? Probably going to be Aaron Hicks, to be honest with you. He's probably going to be back out there again. Everyone in the world believes he should probably be moved. There's many different options on this club, but the good thing is, as fans and hopefully the front office, we've seen what really doesn't work. He's been proven wrong. Cashman's philosophy has been proven wrong. Now we're seeing that they're gotten back more, and the type of guys they got, maybe not a Cashman thing, maybe they fell to him, they're the best options available. What this lineup now resembles a little more is what their philosophy was when they won in 09 and prior, is that you work pitchers. You can still get in 3 and 2 counts. You can still walk to get on base. Gallo brings that. Rizzo brings that. So you added 2 guys in there that does that. Before that, they were basically homer or miss. And you truly can't win like that. I see people bring up, well, the Rays do this team does that. The Yankees haven't done a good job of just doing any of it this year. I mean, they walk. They're the number 1 team, I believe, in walks in the American League and on base percentage. So they get on base a bit. But what this team just needs to do, one, they need DJ LeMahieu to start hitting. They need LeMahieu to be that guy that he was. And I believe personally that tricep injury has been something that's hindered him almost all year. I don't think that's a new thing. I think that's something he's dealt with most of the year. You can tell by the way he swings that he's not able to drive the ball to the right field as much or even pull the ball hard. They need Aaron Judge to do what he did the other night. He needs to start hitting for more power. I know Aaron Judge wants to be this 285, 290 guy. That is beautiful, and he has great stats overall. No knock on Aaron Judge. The Yankees will not pay Aaron Judge to be a 285 hitter. They're paying Aaron Judge to be a 40 homer guy. Giancarlo Stanton may not hit 30 homers this year. The Yankees did not bring Giancarlo Stanton over here to hit only 30 homers. He's expected to do 40 plus. That's what they got him for. They also got him because I think they believed he was a good outfield. He can't even do that. He can barely run. So there is a lot of question marks on this club. This offseason is going to be extremely fascinating. They got a lot of decisions to make, a lot of young guys who they got to make some options on. They got to make a choice on. So it's going to be interesting. But to answer your question, not at all. You're 100% spot on. A lot of this has to do with Brian Cashman. He put the ball club together. He did the right thing at the deadline. I got to give him credit there. But you are right. He put a lot of this team together. And yes, I agree 150%. This team ever goes out there and doesn't make it all the way, most of it is on Brian Cashman, the guy who actually put this club together the last couple of years.
Alex, I want to add on to what he was saying. I'm like, and I was getting into arguments with all kinds of people on Twitter. First of all, I wasn't a fan of getting Joey Gallo, but it doesn't mean I'm not going to root for him. It's because he doesn't – what I looked for was guys who can hit for contact. I know that's kind of being cliche since that's old school and whatever, but he doesn't hit with runners in scoring position. He strikes out a lot. And I like the power aspect, but how many guys do we have that can hit for power? That was my thing. And everybody's like, oh, strikeouts are overrated for hitters. Double players are now worse. Like, how can you be saying this?
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. Joey Gallo, to me, was only a good fit if they brought somebody else in. So what I was saying early on was Gallo and Frazier I thought could be a perfect mix because Frazier hits the ball like crazy. I'll say it right now. I never thought Anthony Rizzo would have been a Yankee. It made sense. For some reason, many of us never thought about it. But that's why I was so excited the day they got Rizzo. I said, wow, now that is good because you added your Joey Gallo. Gallo wouldn't have been a difference maker if it was him by himself. No way in the world was he a difference maker. Now, he improves them on a couple of things, right? He adds more power that they have already, like you said. He's arguably the best defensive outfielder they have besides, I think him and Judge are tremendous in the outfield. He does that. And he gets on base, which is something the Yankees actually have done all year because people also brought up the fact that when Florial came up and Allen came up, they're playing a different style of baseball now. No, they're not. No, they're not. They're not playing no different style of baseball. You just finally see what athletes actually look like and what they could actually do on the field. That's what a ball player could actually do. We had a team that was constructed to have none of those guys on it. And that's a problem. But Gallo definitely adds something to the team, but when you pair him with a guy like Anthony Rizzo, that's when I sat back and said, all right, if this team starts hitting with men on base, they could be dangerous. They could be very dangerous. I obviously still have my concerns.
Pretty fair point. And you said this offseason is going to be very interesting. I definitely do agree with that because you said Heaney's a free agent. I think Rizzo or Gallo is a free agent, if not both of them, whatever.
Yeah. Rizzo, Gallo is a free agent the following year.
Okay. What I'm also in, once again, this is discussing offseason. We still have the month of August, September to go. If maybe October, we'll see. But as of right now, hypothetically, it doesn't look like that. I want to see where they go in terms of Luke Voigt and Gleyber Torres, because a lot of people said that they were going to go after Story. They didn't go after Story. The Rockies didn't trade Story at all, and he's a free agent. So is there a possibility they bring him in? And honestly, in my personal opinion, maybe that does make sense. Maybe it doesn't, because why wouldn't you trade Torres to another team? Maybe, and then once again, that's selling at the deadline. That's the Yankees did not want to do, because you would be left with no choice either to play Hoyjun Park or Tyler Wade at shortstop for the remainder of the year. And then Luke Voigt, they just pretty much stomped on him because he was on the injured list, acquired Rizzo. Rizzo's a free agent, but the way he started in the Miami series and all those other series, how can you not bring him back? Even though he's, I think, in his 30s, close to 30s, whatever. How can you not bring him back compared to what Luke Voigt has gave us? He's striking out. Sure, he had that one game against Kansas City a couple of days ago, the first game, but he hasn't shown us anything consistent, anything since. Last year, and a lot of people were obviously going back and forth between, oh, well, you guys are giving Voigt the crap. Oh, well, now, Voigt deserves it, whatever. I don't care. But last year, he was the home run leader. Now this year, he is much to nothing. And it's unfortunate to see, but it, in a way, shows you that the Yankees are not quick to are quick to replace if obviously something happens. And I want to know your thoughts. Probably going to be on the same page as me of that whole Frazier and Duhar left field spectacle before everything else happened.
Yeah, you don't do it. I mean, not at all. I mean, that's not the route you take. When you're trying to build a club, but. I mean, looking at the offseason, there's a lot of different things you could do here. It's going to be extremely interesting. And I don't know if Brian Cashman's the guy to get it done. Maybe he is. Maybe I'm wrong. But Brian Cashman has a lot of favorites, and he usually doesn't let those favorites go. But there's a couple of guys they really have to move on from. Unfortunately for Luke Voigt, Giancarlo Stanton's here. You have no trust in him being an outfielder. DH is likely locked in for him as we see it now, unless magically his legs repair and for some reason he can run again. I mean, I don't know what the hell's happening this year. They never said anything, but apparently he's nursing some sort of injury. But that is kind of locked up. So it really, unfortunately, or fortunately, however you want to see it, it leaves Luke Voigt as a guy who's probably going to end up being traded. Wherever that may be, for who, we'll see. The interesting thing is what the infield is going to look like. And that to me is really, really interesting, because the one thing we can say about Gleyber is he's definitely improved that short. I just don't feel he's still a shortstop, but he's definitely gotten better. The question the Yankees have to ask themselves is, do we replace him at shortstop and trade him for something, whatever it is, or do we find a different position for him? Can he play third base? We don't know, because we also got to remember DJ LeMahieu is locked in, and his best position is second base. He is not a third baseman. He's not a third baseman. Shouldn't be over there. He's not a third baseman. His only real position to play is second. I think Rizzo has to come back. We're seeing the difference of him and Luke Voigt on both sides of the ball. We're seeing that every day. We're seeing how many runs he will save at first base with throws by guys like Gleyber at shortstop. He saves those runs often, and that is too valuable. I've had people tell me, oh, maybe they should just find whoever could play first. Maybe Stanton could play first. Like, are you mad? Like, you got to be simply out your mind. First base is a legit position. You need somebody there that could play good. Look at the Yankees dynasties. Look at when they win the World Series. They always have a very good first baseman. Anthony Rizzo completely fits that mold. Then you look at the outfield. Gallo is going to be there. You got another full year of him. You got Aaron Judge, of course. And then you got center field as the question mark. Who takes center field? Is it a guy like Aaron Hicks? Do they hold on to him? Do they add a prospect and move him? Maybe pay some of that salary. It's a very movable contract. It's not some insane contract where you're like, yeah, that's fantasy if you think it's going to move. That's not accurate. You could easily move that contract. I am upset about one thing this year. I'm upset that Estevan Florial has not got a longer look. He deserved it. People could bring up all the time, well, he's only hitting 200 in AAA. Well, at the major league level, which counts, he was hitting 300. So that's the difference there. He played a hell of an outfield. He's very fast. He's athletic. He could steal bases. Every at bat, it felt like it was 3-2. Or he was walking, he homered, he was doubling the left center field. He drives the ball the other way. The kid was doing everything you'd want to see in a young player coming up. And they literally just said, yeah, you go back to AAA, no worries. And, Gardy's picking it up. But at the end of the day, how much longer does Gardner have? You got to see who you got. You got to see who you have. Like this Sunday coming up on the Designated Spitters podcast, we have Dan Federico on. And one of the things we talk about is Estevan Florial. And me and him both said it. He should have got at least a good month before the deadline to see who he is. Or the Yankees should have left him up there going into the deadline because I think he got called up beginning of July around there, and they sent him back down prior to the deadline, or a little after it. But they never really gave him that shot. He played a couple of games, did well, and then he just disappeared. It's like we never seen him again. So they got big decisions to make on a guy like Glaber if they move him or not. Voit likely is going to be moved. Rizzo, I think you have to bring him back. On the pitching side, like you said, Heaney, you'll obviously let him go. Jamison Tyon has emerged as the guy we always expected him to be. He's been absolutely tremendous. You got him there. You got Severino, who we hope could finally pitch and get back to some sort of health. And, Montgomery's been well, and Kluber will walk. Well, you go from there. You got options to move guys. The Yankees farm system is very strong. We're seeing a guy, Luis Gil, how good he is. We haven't seen much of Clark Schmidt. Davey Garcia is likely a pen guy. And Luis Medina, they got a lot of young guys coming up too that are closing in. Brandon Beck, the guy they just the second round pick this year. A lot of people think he could fly through the system, so they got a lot of pitching depth here. We'll just see if Cashman's the guy to maybe make those tough calls.
Yeah, let me just get to some stuff in the chat. Terry says, is Walter Peraza next year with the Yanks? Carlos Correa. Adam King says, Rizzo made the plays Voit has looked terrible at. He's talking in response to the Peraza Correa thing. I forgot about Seager being a free agent. He says Terry says Seager would look great. Do you guys see Bellinger's stats this year? He's been terrible. Garcia has had a terrible year too. I'm pretty sure Bellinger and Yelich have both been terrible, at least from what I heard in both aspects of that.
My question, first of all, Alex, sorry to interrupt. Two things. Pete, you didn't mention either of these two players, but I'm just curious to ask, what are you going to do with Rougned Odor?
You can't really, unfortunately, you can't move him because then you got to pay him. So that's the only problem. Rougned Odor has been good recently. Well, one of the things he's done that, for some reason, I'm the only person I've seen that pointed this out, and thankfully the tweet got reshared a lot. His batting stance is completely different than it was in Texas. So he's gotten more open where he's seeing the ball with both eyes instead of being a little more closed. And since he made that change, he's been on a tear. He's been really, really good for the Yankees. So you got to visualize him as really just that. He's a bat off the bench, and that's it. And they're not paying for him. So you would almost have to be insane, even if this guy hit 210 off the bench and pop 15 to 20 homers. That's a hell of a player to get for free. And the bad thing about Rougned Odor is that he's not a good defender at all. No matter where you really put him, he's not really good defensively. So he's that emergency guy, I feel like, next year, is that he could come off the bench to pinch hit maybe for somebody if they're down. He get a start every now and then, give somebody a rest. But he's not a guy you want to see out there 5 to 6 times a week.
Going back to that Florial conversation, I have another side question to ask with that. That question being, before we go back to the Florial subject, I'm gonna take a guess and say that you were disappointed when they sent down Greg Allen and got this guy Jonathan Davis, and the other one being, do we think that this whole Estevan Florial treatment with him not getting a fair chance is going to be another Clint Frazier thing where he could be on the trade block? They may give him a chance in center. They may not, and have Hicks back next year.
I was kind of surprised he didn't go in one of the deals. I thought Florial would end up eventually going because, the way they seem like they see him is not really a guy that can help. And then you see a guy like Cashman come out saying that, they feel there's a future for him here. and things like that. But it's the same thing, that he said about Frazier and guys like that. He also said that none of these guys are difference makers, which I thought was one of the worst things a GM could ever say about his players. Because if I'm looking to trade for one of those guys, if I'm another GM, I'm sitting there saying, I don't want those guys are throw-ins, aren't they? I mean, these are your words, they're not mine. I mean, you basically said they're not going to help my team, so throw those guys in if we can make a deal. But Florial has shown everything. I followed him very, very long. I actually talked to a few advanced scouts in the minor leagues who love him. I mean, I even talked to Eli Fishman, who's always around these guys, and everybody he speaks to, or they even from opposing clubs, are speaking wonders of Florial because he just has that. He has everything you want to see in a guy, right? He's a great build. He's fast. He's powerful. So we'll see what the Yankees eventually do with him. It's just confusing to me that they send down guys like Allen, who comes up and provides a little bit of a spark, playing good in center field, is a switch hitter. He struggles with off-speed pitches, and I know that's why he hasn't stuck around, and that's understandable. But then you got a guy, Jonathan Davis, up here. Like, why are we getting guys off scrap heaps, taking spots of guys that are performing for us here? Like, what is that about? And it's just one of the things I heard was it was something to do with time, because if they're ready to move on from Davis, they got to DFA him. If they kept up, or if they brought Allen or somebody like that back up, the next time they sent them down, they would have to DFA them. So my understanding was it was kind of a trade-off in that remark, that if they had to send down an Allen or a Florial, they'd be out of options possibly, and they may have to just DFA him, and hopefully they get through waivers. Not Florial, but Allen potentially. That could have been the cause.
Terry says, yeah, they got Frazier and Miggy come back. Where do they play? Adam King also says Davis needs to go. Gardner needs to retire to clear spots for Allen and Florial. I honestly don't think that's going to happen in terms of clearing spots. And, let's be honest. Greg Allen, great, but he's not a long-term option in the outfield.
No.
He could be a solid backup option.
Yeah.
But I just want to interrupt you real quick, Alex. I think one thing, could you possibly put Clint Frazier in center field? Or is he more of a right fielder?
More of a right fielder or left fielder. Again, he's regressed. He's regressed again in the outfield defensively. So that's good. Gallo 150% could play center field. No doubt about it, easily. The problem is, for some reason, the Yankees feel Aaron Judge is the guy to play center field when that happens, and they did that already with Gallo here. Makes no sense at all. Gallo should be in center field. The one thing I didn't know much about Gallo, one thing I didn't know about him was how damn fast he is. The guy's fast. Gallo can move for a big man. I mean, he's really quick. So he'd have no trouble at all playing center field at Yankee Stadium. Yeah,
you need the speed and range to do that. In terms of, I'm always coming into this year, I was on the brink that they were like, oh, they would send down Andujar. It seems like in the moments before something happens to him, like last year, before they sent him down again, he was starting to warm up very, very little, in my opinion, from what I saw. And then before his IL stint, he was doing okay in left field. He would misread balls. Once again, he was not a left fielder. It just puzzles me as what they're going to do this offseason. Will they package him? And the problem, in my opinion, the way I look at these things, is that the longer you hold on to these guys, the trade value goes down. What's the value on Frazier right now? What's the value on what's his face right now? Miguel Andujar. Sure, he could, for another club, play left field. Not our club. Doesn't make any sense. But again, the trade value. You might just get scraps in return, and I just don't know, where we're at this point with those two.
Yeah, the thing is that we got to remember about a guy like Miguel Andujar. Let's just start there. Is the one thing we would never question, right? Is Miguel Andujar could hit. He can hit at this level. That's undeniable. Miguel Andujar can hit at this level, and the longer he gets the shot, the better he gets. We've seen that countless times with him. When he gets a chance, the first couple of games may be a bit of a drag, but then once he gets hot, he gets going, and he's no doubt about it, a major league hitter. The problem is, well, Luca said earlier, it's kind of the roster construction that's been created here. There's not a spot for him, unfortunately. There's just not, and that's the conundrum that Brian Cashman has created here. Is the best position for Miguel Andujar was the position he always played, was third base, because that's where he showed his most of his potential. He was below average there too. Left field, you're kind of like, maybe he could be a little manageable. Problem is, not manageable for the New York Yankees. That's a project that this team has no reason to look at any longer going forward. There's no point of it. Clint Frazier, on the other hand, what is he proving? What has he shown? I mean, that's the main thing for me is that what has Clint Frazier shown? It's almost like it's one of these things again that Brian Cashman, he has lightning bat. What the hell has that produced? He's a very quick bat. Okay. It's kind of like when somebody says, oh my God, the other day, Stanton hit a 120-mile-an-hour ball. Yeah, it was an out. Who gives a shit? Seriously, who cares? Well, I don't care how impressive that is. It was an out. Doesn't do nothing for me. Doesn't do nothing for us. Guess what? His batting average went down. Does nothing. So my whole thing with those two guys is if you're going to change this roster, you're going to move things around and fix things, you got to put guys at the right position. When you got Gallo, to me, that signified the end of the career for the New York Yankees when it comes to a guy like Clint Frazier. It just doesn't make sense to put where you're going to put him. I mean, center field's not his spot. You got many different options there in center field. He's not going to play right field. We don't know what Stanton's going to do in the future. But even if you found a spot for him, how much more valuable is he for you than the other guys you got in your club or the guys coming up? Your Perazzas, your Anthony Volpes, your Estevan Florials. They got a lot of good guys coming up in the system, and they got to start moving on from this window that's closing.
I'd like to also add, I'm sorry to interrupt again, Alex. What are you going to do with the bullpen? I mean, Britton's been terrible this year. Chapman's a free agent, I think, because he signed a 2-year deal after 2019.
One more year.
Terrible. Yeah. Oh, 1 more year?
1 more year, yeah. $18 million, by the way. He's a hell of a year.
God. I mean, you got Britton, you got Chapman, you got all these different guys. Starting pitching, you did mention, but what are you going to do with the bullpen? Are you going to change things around? Or are you just going to hope that the pitchers have a rebound year?
I'll tell you what, this is a bright spot for the Yanks. And that's something I've been telling people a while. And Francis, who's a co-host on Designated Spitters for us, he brought this up a while back. I mean, there is under no circumstance should a Major League Ball Club, right, be paying two guys over $30 million combined to pitch an inning. It's insanity. It's crazy in this day and age of baseball. When you got kids, Albert Abreu, right, Luis Gil, Davy Garcia, the Yankees got a boatload of them that throw 100+ easy. With ease, they can do this, right? Why would you go out there and give all these guys this money at this point? We see how good Clay Holmes looked. You know, when they made that deal, I was kind of like oh, man, I mean, who is this guy they got? But I got some good friends in Pittsburgh that mentioned that, Pete, this guy actually, he's pretty legit. Like, if he gets his shit together, gets command a little bit, this guy could be an elite pitcher. And he's shown that early on with the Yankees, that he's actually a lot better than what most of us probably thought we were getting. But you look to see who's available to move Britton. You see if anybody wants to pick him up. Again, look, that's why I said I don't know if Brian Cashman is the right guy to deal in an offseason like this, because you're going to have to get creative. You have to get creative. There's no reason when you got guys coming up the way the Yankees do, so many different options. The one thing I don't put money towards is a bullpen. I just don't, because you got so many. They usually come together through a year, right? Your bullpen to start a year is typically never your bullpen at the end of the year. You'll have your pieces that you know are going to be there, but then you'll have guys that emerge out of nowhere and really step up. The Yankees have shown themselves a lot of those guys this year. They also got decisions, like I said, on a guy like Davy Garcia, who may have to go to the pen. He still throws hard. Most scouts you spoke to, even back before he made his debut and was good the last year, always said that his body frame is of that of a relief pitcher. They don't see him lasting as a starter. And maybe that's something the Yankees got to look into. But me personally, if you could get out of the contract of Chapman, if you get out of the contract of Britton and get some of that money back, you do it immediately. You stay with the young guys you have. Jonathan Loáisiga has shown he could be a closer in his league. There's no doubt in my mind. Hell, if he fails, Chad Green has showed he can do it. If Chad Green fails, somebody else will show that they can do it. That's just the natural way of baseball. It happens all the time. Somebody will eventually find their position and things will fall into place. Steven Ridings, another guy, throws another guy that throws hard. They got flamethrowers up and down the system that could fill those needs. I'm not a big fan of spending money on a bullpen. Not that type of money. That's crazy.
Yeah, kind of like what you're talking about with the, sometimes players don't work out as starters. We saw that with Michael King. When he started, he wasn't good. When he bullpen, unfortunately, I don't know what the hell's going on with him. He's 60 IL. I'm going to guess that he's not coming back this season, but he was a bright spot in the bullpen for the Yankees. And it's not just that; those type of pitchers provide length. And what the problem is, in my opinion, is that you have some of these guys with length, like that one game against the Red Sox that we blew the lead, coming off of I think that was coming off the All-Star break, somewhere around there. I don't know. You had Sessa. He pitched 5 innings. I shat on Sessa the prior years. I thought he was good this year. And he's not a guy who's just, 1 inning. I felt he could pitch at least more than 1 inning. He threw 5 pitches. You bring in Chad Green. You rush to Chad Green. Look what happens. So that's I love embracing the fact, these guys, they're full of depth, whatever. The problem is with this stupid, I guess maybe analytical, non-analytical philosophy with this team, they don't use them correctly, and then we wonder, is it this pitcher? That's the problem with that. Tudo, real quick, shouts to you, man. Adam King says, don't be surprised if the Yankees throw Voit, Frazier, and Duhar and a pitcher at the Brewers for Hader this coming offseason. No way to trade Chapman or Britton either. Well, I would guess that if they're not trading Chapman or Britton, you would not go after somebody like Hader.
Let me just say this real quick to a lot of Yankee fans. One, other teams want to win too. I'm just gonna put it out there because I see these things a lot. If you haven't seen the Milwaukee Brewers, this team is building an absolute monster in Milwaukee. They have no reason to go out there and say, "Hey, Yankees, we'll take your scrap heaps and give you Hader." They have no reason to do that. Is that a possibility? Of course. You know what I mean? Of course, it could potentially be. But one of the things I follow very closely too is the minor leagues, and I actually am building up my ranking on how many people I actually talk to in other systems to learn about their players, learn about the teams. And the Brewers are actually one of them. They got a ton of guys too in that rotation coming up. They got obviously Peralta, we know about, who's dominating. Corbin Burns may be the best pitcher in the league, and Brandon Woodruff is also unbelievable, but. That team is building something very strong going forward. So just a little hesitancy there. We don't just go out there and get other teams' best players because we want them and we're the Yankees. It unfortunately doesn't work that way. I wish it worked a little differently, but it doesn't work that way.
I was going to say, when you were talking about having all these guys, all the young guys in the bullpen and whatnot, you can utilize them. The Yankee fans are out there. I think this was like before this year, during this year, whatever. Oh, the Yankees should have got Kyle Schwarber and whatnot. Oh, the Yankees should have done this. They should have paid this guy this amount of money. To me, it's not about, being cheap or whatever. It's how you spend the money. But if you have assets in your own damn system, why don't you use it? I mean, me and Alex and our other co-hosts were like, Clint Frazier, this is his chance. Why go out and get Kyle Schwarber when you have Clint Frazier in your system? Even though he hasn't worked out, I'm not going to regret putting Clint Frazier there. It's just he hasn't worked out.
No, you're spot on. What you said right there should be repeated 150 times. Gary Sheffield Jr. said exactly that. It's people can't go out there and say, "Oh, well, Hal Steinbrenner is not spending money." Yeah, actually, he is. Actually, he is. He is spending money. Actually, does he look to go over the cap? No, but he's spending money. And look, Brian Cashman's the guy that's offering those up to the certain players that are on this club. And you're spot on there. There's one of the biggest things that this team does wrong is they truly are not utilizing their system the way the system should be utilized. I've had scouts tell me immediately if the Yankees were so serious and if this Gleyber Torres injury is bad, Oswald Peraza should be in the majors. Yeah, he's in AA right now, but they said if you want to give your team the best shot of winning, you go with your best players. Tyler Wade's not that guy. Oswald Peraza right now is in AA hitting 291. Any scout you talk to will tell you the bat could play at this major league level right now. People don't know much about this guy. He's extremely fast, great speed, steals 20+ bases already, hits the ball to right field, out of the stadium to right field. Got great power, smooth defensively. Those are the type of things I want to see this club do more because, one, it does add excitement to the club. And that is actually important because I feel that energy rubs off on the rest of the guys. Going back to Florial, a guy that that week might have been one of the most exciting weeks of the year so far when these guys came up and the Yankees were bunting and they were stealing bases. They were moving guys over. They were going first to third. And Michael Kay said, "Oh, look at booty ball." No, it wasn't booty ball. It was no booty ball. You mad? Are you nuts? That could have been done all year. Boone has never let guys like Gleyber Torres bunt. He didn't make Gleyber Torres run all year. All of a sudden, he's doing it now. I mean, that's what I'm saying. There's an urgency in his game. But, no, you're spot on, man. They spend money. They do those things. The problem is they haven't utilized these players the right way. They haven't gone out there and said, even this year, I mean, the deadline this time, look, Brian Cashman gets all the credit in the world. He didn't give up none of the meat of the prospect system. He gave up no meat. He got these 2 players back, or 3 or 4, whatever the hell it is overall, and that's cool. The thing is that he has missed out on is he falls in love with certain guys, and he will not move them for nothing. Remember Chance Adams? Chance Adams was in the deal to go for Garrett Cole, 2 years prior, before he even went to the Astros. And he said, I won't add him with Clint Frazier to make that deal. Where the hell is this guy now? I mean, those are the type of things. And Gary Sheffield Jr. also said this, and this was also spot on, is prospects are like a pretty girl in high school. 10 years down the line, you have no idea if she's going to look good at all anymore. You just don't know. The prospects are the same way. When you can get a stud, you get the stud that's available right now. Like, people brought to me a guy like a Ketel Marte, if he was healthy and the Yankees could go get him, and he has this contract, controllable, amazing contract for a ball club. Would you give up this guy, and that guy for him? Maybe 2 or 3 top prospects, a pitching prospect, low guy. Well, my question to them is, would you like to win in 2021, or you want to hope you could win in 2024? That's the way you got to see it. They got the money. They got the prospects. They aren't managing it well enough. They're just not. They're not managing like other clubs are doing it. They're just not. You're right. They got to start giving these guys more of a chance. I'm not talking about rushing these kids, getting the guy, like calling Volpe up now and saying, he's doing well in single A. Let's get him up here. Nothing overreacting. Nothing like that. But giving these guys an actual legitimate shot makes sense to me.
Yeah, definitely. That's what we were talking about with the wasting the talent. You mentioned Chance Adams. Maybe another guy that comes to mind. And I focus on something, and that something is like a certain phrase. I learn some new stuff every year. I get more into the Yankees every year. One guy I remember who ain't doing crap right now, I think he's on the IL for like the Pirates or something, is Ben Gamel. He was given a very short leash back in like 2016. Obviously, Judge was the big, new, shiny toy. But Ben Gamel, I don't remember what he did with the Yankees, but he was one of their top prospects from what I remember. That hasn't turned out to be much of anything. They traded him for scraps, I think. So
yeah, Gamel was around the time when they really didn't have much else coming along, and he was performing pretty well. Right now, he's with the Pirates, I believe. He was doing pretty decent, but he was with Seattle also for a little while. I forgot what trade that was that the Yankees moved him over there for. But there's been many guys like that for the Yankees that we've seen maybe come up and do pretty well, and you're like, all right, maybe it's a good time to move a guy like this. And, Cashman doesn't do it. They thought they had something in Davy Garcia. They bring him out this year, and he's just not the same. He's not the same type of guy. Now, you could say maybe he's regressed. Maybe he's working on some things, some kinks to get out of the way. Because a lot of times, what you also got to remember is a lot of times the minor league numbers aren't necessarily what these guys are basing things on. And that's why I tell people all the time, but when you see a guy like Florial hit at 200, it depends on what the organization is asking him to work on. A lot of that is that. They don't necessarily just, we're going to look at win-loss records down here. They don't necessarily do that. A lot of the stuff is, we need you to work on this throughout these games. We need you to work on that. Or they'll look at things like hard hit rate, how hard they're hitting the ball, things of that nature. They're making hard contact. So there's a lot that goes into what the Yankees are looking at. The big problem is for a guy like Cashman is he looks to make these trades of like scrap heaps and you find gold in it, and maybe this guy pans out well. And that's all well and dandy. That's a part of his job. The problem for me is giving these guys a legitimate shot and giving them a shot where maybe a scrap heap shouldn't be covering it. Like we talked about the guy they got up now, Davis. What's he doing here? I mean, is he a better option than Florial? I don't believe so. Is he a better option than Allen? I don't think so. We know Allen's not going to stick around, so if you got to release him, you release him. But give him the shot to play. Let the fans see the guy that they're actually excited about. What are you seeing in Davis that's better than what these other guys provide? I can't find anything. They're both fast. They all play good defense. They hit better than him. So what is it exactly? it's confusing. And like I said, there's things behind the scenes that we don't know that could add to some of these moves that we don't get to see. But when you see it as a fan and you feel you could question the big club yourself, and many fans are thinking the same thing as you are, you're like, all right, they'll probably do something. They'll call Florial back up. He'll get a chance to start, and then it never happens. You know what I mean? And he's not around no more. So it's interesting to say the least. They have legitimate talent. I love when MLB reporters say, "Oh, the Yankees can't go out there and make deals because they have no prospects." You sound like a moron. I mean, Jeff Passan and these other guys saying stuff like that. I'm like, I don't know what the hell team you're watching. I mean, Fangraphs got him ranked 7th or 4th overall. MLB now, Anthony Volpe, all these other guys are entering the top 100. The Yankees got prospects. They can almost get anybody that would be out there and compete with any club on adding somebody. They just got to figure out who is going to be on this club for the long term and who they can actually move and not be scared to move. And if that piece is valuable enough to move for them, I thought a name they could have went after was Jose Barrios. I think he would have been a terrific pick. Now, they got a hell of a deal for him. So I don't know if the Yankees could have matched it so easily without giving up some guys that might have really hurt or might have changed their plans moving forward. But they can trade for just about anybody they want. They can compete with almost anyone.
Yeah. One of the reasons, actually, let me get to these comments real quick. Jason Solo says, as long as we're under Cashman, going over some of Cashman's questionable moves, him reportedly being given a choice and picking Gleyber Torres over Eloy Jimenez in the Chapman deal isn't looking as great these days. Not
That's
giving
true,
up
by
on
the way.
Gleyber, just saying.
That is true, by the way. That is true, yes. Yeah, they got the choice. Gleyber, they felt was apparently it was more overall, my understanding was of the makeup of the player, of who he was and how he would fit in this club. That they thought he would potentially stick around in the infield. That was more of a need at the moment. And that's they thought he was a better elite prospect overall.
And Adam King says, well, rebuttaling Jason's point, I get your point, but there's no way to tell basically how they turn out if they're going to be a Gleyber Torres or Eloy Jimenez, which also is a good point. One of the reasons not just because of, the power aspect, and the strikeouts and everything else. One of the points I made when I was talking about me not being for the Gallo trade is you take a look at the White Sox, you take a look at the Brewers. These guys, and I don't care how they're in first place, whatever, 2 games back, whatever. They are in first place. Do you see? And of course, the MLB people, this is my personal opinion, of course. MLB people are talking about, oh, well, the New York Yankees don't have a Fernando Tatis. And I'm not talking as a prospect, talking as a star in terms of like trades and stuff like that. And I'm like, well, other than Christian Yelich, I'm sorry, even though I don't keep track of the National League a lot as much as I do the American League, I don't know what stars are on there. You take a look at the White Sox. Yeah, you got Eloy Jimenez and Jose Abreu and all those other guys. Are they superstars? Are they, Stantons and Judges? No. But they're also developed prospects. Yep. That's another reason why, some of these guys that filter through the system. And once again, it goes back to the conversation of just wasting talent. With Chance Adams and all these other guys, is that you have these guys in the system, they could be part of your future. And even though, the White Sox were in a shithole for a couple of years, the Brewers were on and off in the Central, because that's always an interesting division. In my opinion, it's not always about status with the Yankees, it's about image. Because in that aspect, obviously, I said this before the trade deadline, they wanted to go out and buy Joey Gallo, whoever it may be. It would be against their image and against the standard to sell. And meaning by selling, I wouldn't say, going to full complete rebuild. No, of course not. You cannot do that. But by selling, you get to see what Estevan Florial looks like till next year. Maybe he competes with Hicks for an outfield spot. You get to see some of these other guys, Peraza, what he looks like. So that was just my issue with this. And we only have a few homegrown guys on the roster. So, that's just my general issue with this whole thing is just, if we don't do good in terms of Yankee standards, we're digging our grave even deeper in terms of prospects, in terms of contracts, and stuff like that.
Yeah. The big thing that you got to remember, too, about the Yankees is they had a crop of young guys come up that are there now. Some of them injured, but they've had talent on this club that have come up through the system. I think the problem that people have with them is the way they managed everybody else. Maybe this not really a scrap heap guys. Maybe the guys that don't really have a role here and move on from those type of guys. The thing we also got to remember too is the best thing the White Sox did, people didn't like it, was hire Tony La Russa. That was the best thing the White Sox could do. Now, people obviously have their issues. He's too old. He's this, he's that. But what are you saying now? What are you saying now? That a lot of the players are even sticking up for him. A lot of the players are saying, no, I came here. What did that one guy, I forgot who it was again, but he was like, I'm going to, I was more happy to go play for Tony La Russa than anything else. I mean, you hear things like that, but it's that mindset. Tony La Russa does a good job of blending analytics in with just being an old baseball head, that he knows he has a seeing eye for the game. He recognizes that he has a gut feeling. He has those little things that baseball really was more of years ago, and he's blended that into this club. So when it comes to the Yankees, they have homegrown guys. I don't feel they're being utilized well by the general manager and also the manager on the field. Whatever they're doing, there's something missing in that clubhouse, and nobody can convince me any other way. Whether it's no motivation, whether it's no urgency, to me, that's the biggest concern on my end, is that there's just a lack of urgency with this club. So, I mean, you got your Aaron Judge, right, who was developed. You got Montgomery, who was developed. You got Severino, who was developed. You got Gary Sanchez, who was developed. You got guys like Florial there to hold most of the bullpen. I mean, it is somewhat from their system, where it's been in their minor leagues for a while. So they're going the route of these guys. The problem is some of them, they just stick with them and they love them and they keep them there until their value is gone. To like a Miguel Andujar, for an example, his value is diminishing. Clint Frazier, I mean, he has vision issues. He can't field. He couldn't hit. I mean, what is it? Who is this guy? Why would I want him on my team? So that's the problem, is that Cashman has really bit the bullet, so to say, when it comes to, do I strike while the kettle is hot? Or do I wait and see if this guy develops on my club when I could potentially go out there and get somebody who's more established? That's the issue that we're facing. Guys like that, is he able to make that right decision? Would he be able this offseason to convince the fans that trading a Gleyber Torres is the right move? I don't know if he could do that. I don't know if that's up Brian Cashman's alley. I made this trade because now we have this guy at short, DJ at second, Gio at third, and we brought Anthony Rizzo back. We feel we completely improved our club by making this deal. And, we thought Gleyber was a great player, but this deal made the most sense. I don't know if Brian Cashman, again, is the guy that can make certain moves like that I think this roster desperately needs.
I do agree with you there.
Alex, I'm going to add in my point. So when talking about Tony La Russa, like my friend our co-host brought up this all the time. As your point was being made, everybody doesn't not a lot of people like Tony La Russa. He's that old school guy. He's kind of he kind of seems arrogant. Boone's the polar opposite. But what's Tony La Russa doing with that team? They're in first place right now in the AL Central. And it's going to bring me to my point. Do you have the confidence? I don't know if Alex does. I got to remark with him over that, or Sean does, or whoever. Do you have the confidence that Brian Cashman can fire Aaron Boone?
No.
No.
Here's what I think will happen, okay? Everybody, I got to ask this question a couple of times, that, hey, if the Yankees stay in this position right now, they don't make the postseason. I think you got rooms there to ground him. You definitely, to fire him. I think you got grounds there to fire him if that's the case. I think if the Yankees just squeak into playoffs, they lose, they'll be the same thing. Hey, look, we got to the postseason. We're just missing a few pieces. But it'll be Cashman's last year. Why would you let him go out there and pick a new manager? They'll probably bring him back on a one-year deal, say we're going to go at this one more time. We feel this is the route to take. We weren't far off. The second half, we were the team we expect to be going forward. We were much better with the additions we made. With a couple of more additions, we think we'll be where we need to be. I am on record of saying this, and I told Yankee fans, I can't wait till I'm proven wrong. I don't think the Yankees will ever win with Aaron Boone at the helm of this club. I don't think they will ever win. And look, if I'm wrong, anybody could copy these, post it as many times as they want, beat the shit out of me, all you want. I'll be happy to sit here and smile and say I was wrong because I'm a Yankee fan first and foremost, so I don't care who they win with. As long as they win, I'm happy. I don't think he has what it takes to manage this team well enough, to motivate them well enough to punish guys when maybe punish is the wrong word, but to bench a guy when need to be benched, to have a conversation with them when need to have a conversation. He's not. He just does not seem like that guy. When you could say that a major league umpire bullied you, there's a whole nother story there. There's a whole larger story there. Then yesterday's game, you lose a heartbreaker, and your response to that hurts a little bit. But man, the field was beautiful, wasn't it? No, that ain't it. That ain't it.
And I also got to bring up to point two. So Adam King says Boone's a free agent after this year and this cannot be fired. I meant, you're right, Adam. He is a free agent
what you mean, yeah.
Technically. Yeah. But the real question, are they really going to bring him back was my question. So I corrected myself. And when me and my grandfather went to pick up my mother at work today, and I was listening to WFAN. It was Carton and Roberts technically, but Joe Beningo filled in for Carton. So they had Aaron Boone on. They do it every week. It's a weekly report. I think they do it Fridays. They did not press him once at all, and that's
nobody does.
Me off constantly. They're like, oh, one question that I really focused on, and it was a decent one. They were like, well, how does this sting more? Would this sting more as a player and manager? And then first of all, they started off with, the 1999 season, because Evan Roberts and Joe Beningo, I think, were naming the top 5 pitchers in Mets history. Like, is that a relevant discussion? I understand. And then they went into the Royals series for most of the time. There was barely yesterday was covered. Yesterday was barely covered. They were talking about, the whole thing with Eduardo Perez and Aaron Judge. They were talking about the Boone ejection with the balk call. I get you have to cover all the events of the week, but you're barely highlighting yesterday. They were like, oh, did you enjoy the Field of Dreams thing? I'm like, who cares? Who the hell cares?
It's the media today.
It's unbelievable. It's like, are you going to get fired for asking a tough question? And my point, what I would ask is like, how could you swallow these losses? And then Evan Roberts was like, oh, ever since that Mets choke back in the beginning of July, you're the best team in baseball. Okay, who cares? Yeah, we've been the best team in baseball since then, but we're still blowing leads.
Yeah.
Like, they're not creating any urgency or pressing him. Like, do you know that? Do you still carry the same mentality? Do you still carry? How are you still allowing these losses to happen? Are you pressing the guys to do better? Like,
it's funny. The best question you mentioned this earlier. The best question that's been asked all year is your team getting comfortable losing because they were losing a ton? Look how he responded to that. He responded to it with a little bit of emotion. He immediately kind of just, oh no, get out of here with that. That's the best he has. That is Aaron Boone right there. He's not allowed to be asked these questions because it's shocking. Unless the reporters feel like, if I question too much, I'll lose my job. I know the New York Post a couple of times have went at him and talked about his management style. And I mean, anybody you ask around the game, one of the things I'm most fascinated about when it comes to baseball is how many of these old school managers won't even get a shot anymore of even managing a ball club because of these things like this. Because you're being told now what to do by a guy who never played on the field. You're being told now by, we don't know who they are, but a group of nerds who study numbers all day that tell you, who've been in baseball for 25 years, that this is the right move to make, not the one that you feel. It's pure insanity, and you're not allowed to question those things. You're not allowed to go to Aaron Boone and say, Boone, do you feel your management style is good enough for this club? Hey, Aaron, why didn't you bench Gleyber Torres after he didn't hustle down the line?
Why is Zach Britton in, even though he hasn't really been your best pitcher since coming off the IL? And Aaron Boone was like, oh, Zach Britton's starting to feel it and whatever. I'm like, you have to put your best pitcher in that situation.
Exactly. And I mean, again, I say this one more time. For the people that, they want to make the excuse that, Britton this and Britton came out and did it. Folks, it is August. This team is not in the playoffs. They're not 10 games up. They can't say, you know what we need to do? We need to try to get Britain right. This is a good time to do it because we're in the playoffs. We know that. We got to get our guy right for playoff time. Yesterday's game was so damn big. We haven't had a comeback like that from the Yankees all year long where look who did it. Aaron Judge and then Big G. I told my team, right, we're in our chat together. I said, guys, the game is over. Stanton's not doing nothing. Once he homered, I went on Twitter. I said, damn, he proved me wrong. Thank God he did. Now close this game out. Once they said Britton's coming in, my whole team said, how do you not go with Loizaga here? How do you not go with your best relief pitcher after your team just did that? I can't imagine being in that clubhouse after that. I'd have been sick to my stomach. Why did we do that? What was the point of that? I'm not shitting on Britton, but like you said, Britton hasn't been right. He's trying to get the field to be back to who he usually is. He hasn't been right. We've seen him do it. That's a one-run ball game. You go to a guy who walks guys. Yeah, he gets ground balls, but if that ball's up, you can hit him. I just think in that situation again, you have to go with the best guy. Like you said, these reporters aren't willing to go out there and say, you know, where was Loizaga tonight? Was he lost in the cornfield maze? You guys couldn't find him. Where was he? Why would you go with a guy like that? You know, back in the day, I remember that you would get pressed a little bit on things. You would get the guy a little uncomfortable. At the end of the day, I mean, if I'm a reporter, my only question is, Aaron, was going with a struggling relief pitcher truly your best option in that moment? After your team just did what they did? Oh, well, we kind of felt, no, that's not good enough. That's insane. You guys aren't in the playoffs. Those are the type of follow-ups that you need because that's what the fans actually want to hear. Why do we do that when it's August and we're not in the playoffs right now? Why, Aaron, why are you trying to build a guy up in a one-run game, in a great comeback? What is the reason for that? There is no reason. It's ridiculous.
And to me, I think Aaron Boone's a very conservative manager, and I also think that the Yankees can tend to conservatively manage games. Look at the Tigers series. I really think they tanked that series just to get to the next series. Like, I don't like that type of managing. Don't ever underrate a team in terms of that aspect. I mean, us fans can do it, but you're managing the baseball team. You're doing whatever. And my biggest problems with Aaron Boone are he doesn't have fire. He doesn't have the true passion. His answers are robotic. I mean, do the Yankees want him to be that way instead of him telling the media how he really feels, instead of him telling the players how he really feels, setting a fire in that locker room? You see these players, they don't play with urgency.
Not at
and
all.
That's all a reflection on the manager. And the manager also doesn't have a feel for his pitchers. You can go back to the day. I don't remember. It was some date in July, end of July, the big Domingo Germán game, which I was really pissed off at it. He gives up one hit in the eighth inning, and they take him out.
Yeah.
I don't get that.
Yeah.
And then there's the excuse coming out like, oh, you know, if Germán hasn't gone this long in 2 months, he's going to become ineffective. He's going to get hurt. And then Yankees fans yesterday started the narrative after the game. Oh, the balls were juiced. Stop making excuses. Stop justifying losing. And you know what? I got a message for Yankees fans. If you are truly pissed off at this team, whether Cashman, Boone, Steinbrenner, wherever, do not buy tickets. Do not buy merchandise.
Yeah, I mean, you hit it spot on. So
you're just putting money in their pockets.
Yeah, I'll follow up real quickly for you guys. What you said about Boone there, and I've been so fascinated by this. Aaron Boone, according to a lot of people who've already reported on this, has been brought in as a guy who is very willing to just go along with. Here's the lineup for today. Here's the available pitchers for today. Here's what we're looking to do this year. He's been the guy that's been. What do you think? What do you think Joe Girardi's gone for? You think Joe Girardi's gone because he was a bad manager? No, not at all. Joe Girardi's gone because the players said that he was too hard on him, and that there wasn't a full relationship with a guy like Girardi because him and guys like Tony Pena, old school guys, beat the shit out of these guys if they didn't do their job right. You got the best years of Gary Sanchez under a guy like Tony Pena. You know why? Because when he didn't bust his ass down the line, and he was a catcher, exactly. And he said, no, you're doing this wrong. You got to work. You got to work. You got to work. He didn't like that. A lot of the guys don't like that because we're in a time now where if you go back to Reggie Jackson's days and Billy Martin, nowadays, if that ever happened, guess what happens? The manager gets fired. The owner tells the manager, go home. The player, we're paying him too much money. You go home. You don't bench him during a game. That's where the game is right now, unfortunately. And guys like Aaron Boone, that's their job. Their job is to be the therapist in the room, keep the media away from the players, keep everything nice and cute, and that's it. That's the way it goes, unfortunately. But I got one message for Aaron Boone. Listen to my rant again yesterday. If anybody missed it, got to grow some balls, my man. If you're going to go out, you got to go out on your shield because your last name is being dragged through the mud. Not the Yankees. Your last name is being dragged through the mud. A great baseball family name. And you should have a little more dignity and pride that if you are just accepting a lineup card and you are taking the beatings from fans on what you're doing with this club, you got to go out of your own shield. You got to pull Cash to the side and say, hey, Cash, listen, this has not worked. I got to run this my way for a little while and see what the difference looks like. Simple as that. That's the only thing I can say about when it comes to Boone.
Real quickly, I do want to get to these two comments. Adam King says, if I was the Yankees GM, Boone and Thames are 100% gone, with Showalter being the manager, O'Neill the hitting coach. Britton was coming in as a direct act to throw the game, putting in a lefty against a team that destroys left-handed pitching, which was a good point on your rant last night. Johnny L. easily saves that game.
I also got to mention a point. I think this was like a week ago, 2 weeks ago, whatever. Julian Giuliarte or somebody tweeted out that Cashman was on MLB Network Radio, and Cashman explained the lineup process. Says, we're giving Boone an ideal lineup. He'll speak to his personnel, his coaches, whoever, about, setting lineups. So it's technically Boone's thing. He's kind of like I don't want to say he's like a yes man in that, but he's the one that can modify the lineup. They're just giving you a suggestion. So don't give me, Boone doesn't set the lineup, Boone doesn't do this, Boone doesn't do that. Don't give me that.
Well, yeah, and I've said that for a while. And that's what I was saying last night. And if that is the case, then Boone needs to change it. Simple as that. I mean, you're the guy getting the beat down. If it truly is the point of you actually aren't, let's play along with the narrative. You actually are a puppet, right? You're not actually doing none of this stuff. You're just the head of the team. You're being the therapist in the clubhouse. You need to step to the plate then and say, enough is enough. I'm not going out this way. This is not the way I'm going to leave this club. I'm in a contract year. I know I can do better. I know who we got to feel for that's good on this club. You got to give me that freedom to do that. So I don't want to hear that excuse anymore that, he's a puppet and he's not making decisions. No. He has every chance to make this. He got a media he could go to. He can speak up for himself. He's a man. He's a grown-up. He could do all that.
Luca, any final thoughts?
Well, I was going to say, and also in terms of the media aspect, these are my final thoughts. Girardi was ripped for his answers to the media, but Boone's better. Boone's better with these robotic answers. It's like some of these questions, he's like a robot. I can't compute.
Yeah, he's a media darling, as they call people like that. I mean, he gives them what he wants. He doesn't have any enemies there. Girardi had enemies there. There were media guys who also didn't like him. Because again, his personality, it's who he is. Girardi's a hard ass. That's just the type of guy he is. But guess what? A lot of clubs, especially like the Yankees, we're seeing that's actually what they need a little bit of. They need somebody like that to keep them in line. And, that's one of the things why the White Sox are so good this year. This is a club who is very exciting, got a ton of young talent, and they got a guy who will not tolerate their shit. It's like what Ozzie Guillen Jr. said. Tony La Russa is the type of guy that if you told him, most of your team hates you, he would sit there and say, what's our win-loss record? They'll say, you're in first place. He said, then they can hate me all they want. That's great. Aaron Boone's not that guy. Aaron Boone will curl up in a ball and cry, knowing that somebody doesn't like him on the club. That's my personal opinion of him.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. So with that being said, first of all, I'd like to thank Pete for coming on the channel. We will be moving into our football segment with the two guests in the studio. Pete, any final thoughts? It was such a great pleasure to have you on the channel. If anyone hasn't already, check them out. The links are in the description.
Yeah, definitely, man. Thank you guys for having me on. Again, for everybody, if you do not follow, go follow me on Twitter. I'm sure you guys can find me. And like you said, it's in the description. The YouTube is NYY News, the Simonetti source. Definitely check that out. We got so much content on there. And again, guys, anybody who's on here because I'm on, follow these guys too. They're doing a great thing. So appreciate you guys having me on.
Keep up the rants. And real quickly, Hashtag kindness corns.
Kindness corns. That's what they did all day today. It's beautiful. So cute. You got to see pictures. Unbelievable.
Thanks, P. Have
Talk
a
to
good
you guys
night,
later.
man.
You too.
Good night, man.
All right. So with that being said, let's move into our football subject. The Giants and Jets preseason game is tomorrow night at 7:30. With that being said, let me welcome on Kush the Hub and Ali from Loyal NYJet Fans. Thank you guys for coming on once again. This is going to be another big topic in tonight's podcast. I'm going to let everybody new in here say their first thoughts, and then I do want to go over a real quick subject before we get into the actual preview. So I'll start off with Kush and then go with Ali.
Yo, what's up, man? What up, Alex Luca? It's been so long since I've seen you guys. I honestly can't remember last time. It's probably been honestly like a couple months. I don't know. It's really been a while, man. What up, all loyal New York Jet fans? Shout out to everybody in the chat. Let me get a quick What's up, Giants fans? How y'all doing? So, I guess, thank you for having me on, man. Glad to get into the Jets and Giants thing. I honestly haven't done any type of Jets and Giants preview. Like, my vid today was more so about our rookies because we're taking a very different approach to the first preseason game that I'm sure the Jets are taking in terms of who we're going to be putting out on the field there. So there's that as well. And, of course, real quick, I gotta plug the merch real quick, bro. Yo, listen, man. Y'all need to get the Lion King T-shirt. You know what I'm saying? Leonard Williams called himself the Big Cat. I call him the Lion King, and I'm sure Jets fans wish they had this Leonard Williams on their team still, but they don't have the Leonard Williams that gave us 11.5 sacks that earned the nickname the Lion King. That's all I got.
If you guys haven't already, check both of these guys out in the description. Their links are there. Ali.
Hey, man. Thank you guys for having me on. It's finally football, man. I've been waiting for a long time to see football again, and we're finally in preseason. Obviously, it's just preseason, but with the Jet, after seeing Adam Gase for 2 years, I mean, it's a refresher for us, seeing an actual coach and an actual team on the field that can possibly win games. So, I mean, it's excitement there, and I think Jets fans are excited all over.
Real quickly, before we move into much of the preview, Luca was there. The Hub was there, of course. Let's talk about FanFest. How fun was FanFest?
I'm not going to forget FanFest for a long time. It was really, really fun. Listen, I see Lucas. I'm sure even though he was the enemy, he had a great time as well.
Yeah.
I got to be honest, the greatest part of FanFest, and I said it in my vid today, because and here's the thing, I went in with a mindset of I want to get a little bit of footage, a little bit of, photography done to maybe do a little bit of a vlog video. But I was honestly so consumed in the moment, which is a good thing, that I was just like, nah, I just want to be there as a pure fan and experience it myself. But the best part of FanFest wasn't even the actual event. It was just everybody in the parking lot hanging out, man. It was so cool to do.
For me, before I get to Luca, because he was the common enemy in the parking lot, meeting those guys were so cool. I remember we pulled up around, say it was 2:30. The lots were supposed to open at 3, but I guess they opened it earlier than that.
Yeah, I think we both got there around the same time, actually.
Yeah. Bobby and all the guys were the Talking Giants guys were there. We met LPG. Then you guys showed up. I was really surprised, and I knew Bobby was a big guy. I was really surprised how tall Jaden is. I'm like,
yeah, he's like 6'5" or something.
Yeah, I'm like, how is this man taller than me? But
right, he never said anything about his height ever on any type of shows, anything, man.
And then the entertainers showing up, some of the other guys showing up, taking the lap. That was all fun and games. Luca, after you go, I'm going to let you and Ali kind of remark on some Jets headlines, and then we'll go into some Giants headlines and then start from there.
I was actually the enemy for once. I mean, I went to Giants training camp about 2 years ago with Alex. I also went to Giants homecoming 2 years ago with Alex, but I wasn't as quite as booed as I was at FanFest. I was booed by license plate guy and all those different guys, but you know what? It's fun. The Giants fans are a very wholesome community, I got to admit. And now I'm going to go into my Jets segment. Ali, I always like your content. I got to ask you, did you really think Matt O'Leary was that tall?
Yeah, man. When I first met him, so for the last year and a half, we've been just doing podcasting. So he looks small. He looks really small on the screen. And then when I got there, I was just like, this guy's huge. Like, this guy's insanely tall. Like, I heard that he was pretty tall, but I didn't know he was that big. And when I was walking with him, I felt like the Giants walking with me right now. Like he's just walking towards the stadium. But I mean, it's a great time to finally meet these content creators that I've been working with for a year and a half. So like it's awesome just to be back with fans and meeting fans, taking pictures with fans, just having a good time and finally watching football. So I feel like, being with Matt and then Ryan from Jets Talk, it was awesome just to sit there and just talk football with each other in person.
All right, so I'm going to start off with my Jets tangent. What is your record prediction for the New York Jets this year?
Oh man, in the range of 6 to 8 wins. I'm not going to go crazy. It's just a new system. We just don't know what this team's going to be right now. There's just too many question marks. It's a rookie head coach, a rookie quarterback. There's rookies. There's like 5 new rookies on offense. There's be like a couple rookies on defense. The secondary is a little bit, iffy. So there's going to be a lot of question marks for this team that you can't really say that, they're going to go 8-8, they're going to go 10 wins, or they're going to get 2 wins. They're not going to be that bad. I think it's just a learning curve for these guys. They're just a young team. They're going to have to develop together. I do like the way they're going and the direction they're going. I think they're finally doing it the right way. It just has to go together. You saw Herbert with the Chargers. He went head-to-head with Patrick Mahomes. So if the quarterback play stays good and Zach Wilson lives up to the hype of the second overall pick and he plays well, then you never know what's going to happen with your team. But you haven't seen this team on the field. There's too many new faces. There's some guys coming back from the COVID from last year who didn't play at all, like CJ Mosley, who's a big piece of this defense. So, there's a lot of question marks. So we just can't predict, especially for a team who had 2 wins last year. You can't really predict like big numbers and big stats for this team right now. But I think that it's going to be definitely a big improvement for this team, especially with the Jets defensive line. I think it's going to be a top 5, top 10 defensive line, but the rest of secondary is a little bit iffy. So that's what's going to make it look bad. But I'm excited for this team. I think they could pull off some upsets this year.
Yeah, I definitely think that too. As you said, it's a lot of hypotheticals this year. What's Zach Wilson going to look like? What's Robert Saleh going to look like as a coach? What's LaFleur going to look like as an OC? Is Mosley going to come back in full force? Is the secondaries too young and all that? So my next thing is you've been at training camp probably more than I have. I went once. Zach Wilson was iffy, but that's besides the point. Who is trending upwards in your opinion?
He's like anybody?
Like as a player, like who has their stock going up as a player in training camp? Who's performing really well?
I think the person that every practice is Carl Lawson. I think Carl Lawson is the one guy that could have he could be a top 3 sack leader this year. Like it's that he's isn't that good. He looks faster. I watched this film when he was in Cincinnati. He was great there, but he looks fast right now. He looks athletic, and the Jets finally needed a pass rusher. We haven't had a pass rusher than John Abraham in like 2009 or 10. So the Jets finally have a pass rusher in Carl Lawson. I think with this Jets defensive line, with Quentin Williams, John Franklin Myers, all these guys, I think with all these guys on line, Carl Lawson has a chance to be successful. He's being Mekhi Becton pretty much all practice. Mekhi Becton is a top left tackle, so you can't really. That's a good battle to see. And then he also went against Morgan Moses, George Fan, and he still won those battles. So Carl Lawson's a guy that every fan is excited. He's a big splash signing for the Jets in the offseason. He's happy to be here for the New York Jets. And Robert Saleh obviously is a defensive-minded coach, so he's going to focus a little bit more on the defense. Obviously, he's a CEO type head coach, but he's definitely going to pay attention more to the defense. So Carl Lawson, I feel like, is the one guy that everyone's so excited for on that defense because he's just been so consistent. And then the offensive side is Elijah Moore, the rookie. Oh, yeah. Elijah Moore has just been everywhere. Obviously, he's probably not playing on Saturday because of his quad injury.
Yep.
I got word that he's okay, but he's probably not going to play. He is a player that's just been consistent. You want a player to develop with your rookie quarterback. He's that rookie that's going to develop with their rookie quarterback and have that tandem going. So I think those two guys have just been outstanding this camp. And every camp they're out there, they're making plays, they're making diving plays. Carl Lawson's pretty much having like 4 sacks every practice on Zach Wilson. So, I mean, yeah, those two guys are the most standout right now.
And I've also heard things like Hamza Nasruddin's playing very well, Javelin Guidry's playing well, Mosley's doing really well in camp. And before I get to who's trending down, I'm not really sure about this topic, but do you really believe that Denzel Mims is struggling? Do you really think that's a worry?
No. It's just media trying to blast him. That's what it is. I mean, he was sick for half the camp, mini camps and OTAs. He was sick. So he lost about 90 pounds because of that, because he was that sick. So, I mean, he's in the first team reps. You know, they're rotating all these wideouts because the Jets finally have wide receivers that can play ball. It's just Keelan Cole is better than Denzel Mims right now. Keelan Cole is a veteran receiver, and he's going to win that battle against Denzel Mims. It's that simple. So Keelan Cole is out there making plays right now. So that's a situation. But Denzel Mims, he's not fighting for a roster spot. He's fighting to go up the depth chart because he missed so much time, and he was so unhealthy, and he was just not there early in the season, early in the offseason programs, that he wants to get back in track. Denzel Mims, a perfect fit. You know, that type of receiver is like a Brandon Marshall receiver. In any offense that can work. It doesn't have to be perfect. Perfect fit for every offense. They could make it work. So it's just a bad narrative. I know Jets fans are stressed about that. I don't care because he's not gonna go anywhere.
Yeah, to me, I feel like Mims is kind of like a Corey Davis kind of guy. They're both tall. I mean, they're not the best of route runners, but they're the contested catch one of those receivers. But I'm not too concerned about Mims. As far as I'm concerned, I've been hearing that like the Jets are rotating players around between different teams. Like Zach Wilson will get reps with like the second team receivers and all that. And to me, that's very very knowledgeable, very not. I don't know how I would describe it, but it's because remember, Sam Darnold was playing with like second, third team wide receivers last season. They had no chemistry, even with the offensive line. So it's just a fresh new idea in the minds of Jets fans.
Look, so what Zach Wilson, obviously he was not prepared to come to the NFL and be a starter. The reason they're doing that is they want as many team reps, 7-on-7s as much as possible for Zach Wilson. And that's what Salah said, that he wants the guys, if injuries go down, him being familiar with his offense, receivers, his running backs, and all of that. You know, he wants to get him as many reps as possible. That's why he's playing tomorrow. He's going to get him a quarter in, and just he needs the experience because Zach Wilson is not in Daniel Jones' shoe. Daniel Jones has been in the league for a couple of years now, and Zach Wilson's just fresh. He's brand new to this. And yes, he did have some issues. He had a perfect offensive line in BYU. He held the ball a couple seconds more than the NFL will ever allow because of this pass rush. So being out there, he'll get better, especially if you're not having with the best receivers out there. He's getting reps with all of these guys, especially with the backup offensive line. If they go down, Denzel Mims, Vincent Smith, Jeff Smith, Braxton Berrios, all these guys are getting reps, and he's getting familiar with these guys, and he's thriving. I mean, he's had his bad days, obviously, like every rookie quarterback does in training camp. That's why they call it training camp, and to learn. I mean, he said it perfectly earlier this week. He was just like, I want to make mistakes in practice. That's how I'm going to learn. Rather than doing in the game, I'm going to throw these passes to see what happens. That's what he said. This is practice. It's not a game yet. So I'm trying to learn what I can do and what I can get away with. And, how can I succeed to be a better football player and a better quarterback? So, I mean, that's the mindset, fans have got to look at because he knows what he needs to do. He knows he's making mistakes, but he's learning from them as well. And that's what Sam Darnold did not do.
Right. It's very sophisticated take by Zach Wilson. Edward Chance says, didn't Wilson look bad in camp? To me, yes, he really hasn't. He's had a mixed bag in camp, I feel. But the last two practices, he's looked really good. I'm not really concerned about Wilson as this far. He hasn't even played a preseason game, and Jets fans are already calling him a bust. Not all, but some. And I just don't get it. But you could say it's PTSD from the previous quarterbacks, like the Mark Sanchez's, the Sam Darnolds, the Geno Smiths, whoever. But in the next topic, who do you think is really playing down or trending down in training camp?
Trending down. Just the cornerbacks. The cornerbacks have been gotten beat a lot. I mean, the approach that Robert Saleh had is to get the young guys reps. But obviously, you know, they're learning it because it's mostly all rookies back there. Besides Bryce Hall, who's played pretty well. Bless Austin is a question mark. You know, and then Eccles is pretty good. I mean, he's a rookie. And, you know, Isaiah Dunn, who's an undrafted rookie, who's playing really, really well. So I think right now it's the cornerback position because the cornerbacks have been being beat by these receivers, especially Corey Davis and Elijah Moore. All these guys are just beating these corners, and these corners are a big issue, and that's what's going to lead in this training camp. I really hope we see Slayton out there. I hope we see some wideouts so they can have some competition to look at and get better in the NFL. Obviously, we're playing Green Bay next week, and we'll see who plays in that game. But they need that experience, especially young, talented, you know, cornerbacks. And so, yeah, it's just a big question mark. They're being beat all training camp. Now they're going up against actual competition. So we'll see if they get better and better with that. But the cornerback position is a little bit of a mess. You know, I'm not too worried about it, but it's definitely a mess.
How do you think the tight end position has looked? I mean, on paper, they're kind of a mixed bag. Chris Herndon is trying to rebound from a bad year last year. Griffin, I think, was injured or really didn't have a good year. Tyler Kroft has looked questionable, kind of. But what's your thoughts on the tight end position for the Jets?
I'm not very fond of the tight end position right now. I do like Tyler Kroft. Tyler Kroft had a pretty good OTA mini camp, but he's gone downhill. He's dropped a lot of passes in training camp. Chris Herndon, he's Chris Herndon. You know, he's made some plays here and there, but he just hasn't showed up to be that tight end one yet. Kenny Yeboah, he's an undrafted rookie. You know, he was all the hype for that. He's caught a touchdown in the green and white scrimmage. But other than that, he's been pretty quiet. You know, he's not doing too much. Wesco is probably going to be the Jets fullback, so I don't think he's going to be a tight end per se for the Jets. Ryan Griffin, I think he could be a possible cut, but he is a veteran, so possibly keep him around because the Jets tight end position is just wide open. Anyone could make the roster. I do think Herndon comes back. I think Tyler Kroft, those two are going to be fighting for that tight end one spot. But the other guys are just, it's just going to be a toss up.
No Hub, we will not take Evan Ingram.
Listen. Hear me out. He's going to do better this year, all right? Last year was rock bottom. Even if he's still with my team to begin the season, I've been saying for a minute he's going to do better. You know what I'm saying? He'll be a good tight end for y'all, bro. Just give me a third-round pick. All right? Listen, y'all gave me Leonard Williams for a third-round pick. I'll give you Evan Ingram for come on now. It's the same trade, bro.
Okay, so next subject of that matter. What training camp battle has you excited the most?
Battle. Carl Lawson, Mekhi Becton. That probably is the most because that's our best offensive lineman right now, Mekhi Becton, going up our pass rusher that haven't had in a long time. And you know, just seeing that battle, Carl Lawson has been winning a lot of it, especially with the no pads. When it's no pads, but Mekhi Becton has shown up. You know, he's Mekhi Becton. He's a huge dude. You know, he's probably one of the best left tackles in the league right now. And they're just going at it every practice. And, you know, it's awesome to see that battle, especially for the offensive line. The Jets have struggled with the offensive line right now for a long time since Nick Mangold and D Brick. We've struggled big time at that offensive line position. So, and then obviously pass rusher we haven't had in a long time. So that battle is some fans. I mean, all these beat reporters are always tweeting about Carl Lawson, Mekhi Becton. You know, that's a position that everyone's watching. So, you know, that battle is just very entertaining, and I can't wait to like just see them against actual competition to see if like is Mekhi Becton just good or is he like or just Carl Lawson is just like all amazing. You know, we don't know yet because it's practice. We haven't seen them in actual gameplay. So, you know, that is a battle that I've thoroughly enjoyed in the last 2 weeks.
And I'm not worried about Becton in the sense he's getting beat by Lawson because that helps him with his experience.
Yeah.
That helps him really get better and all that stuff. But what positional battles have you excited the most? I mean, I listed a couple. There's cornerback battle, cornerback 1 and 2, the nickel position's wide open. Right tackle between Morgan Moses and George Fant. Right guard is a question mark. Tight end's a question mark. Weak side linebacker is going to be fun between Jamie and Sherwood and Hamza Nasruddin. Does the kicker position have you worried?
When we didn't sign Myers, I knew this is going to be another cycle. I just knew that was going to happen. That he was a Pro Bowl kicker, and we didn't keep him. And in the league nowadays, kicker is very important to have, especially if you're a rookie quarterback. You know, to put points on the board, they probably put the most points than anyone on your team, the kicker. So you need a kicker that's consistent. Nagar and Amendola have been pretty much the same equal. They missed a couple and then they make a couple, or they have good days and bad days. So in training camp, hopefully they bring another kicker in to see if they can, you know, compete and they pick the better kicker. But right now, it's the kicker position is just a big question mark. It's just like, come on, we could have had Myers. We could have just paid him and just kept him here. Because we really haven't had this issue. We had Nick Folk for years, and we had no problems at the kicker position. Now all of a sudden, out of all the positions, our kicker, we don't have a kicker. So you know, it's a wait and see type thing. We'll see how they do in the rest of training camp, preseason, and then we'll see what that position holds.
Do you have confidence that the offensive line is going to be better this year? Because in years past, I was like, you know what? We got these additions. Like last year, we got the additions, Greg Van Roten, Alex Lewis, Connor McGovern. I'm like crossing my fingers that this offensive line is going to be better. But they weren't. So what are your thoughts on this offensive line?
It's 100% better. It's definitely better than what Sam Darnold had, that's for sure. Sam Darnold was just put into a mess. That was a situation in New York. And now he finally, Zach Wilson's definitely more prepared for the league than Sam Darnold ever was with the New York Jets. It's just that simple. But with the offensive line, you know, I think they're going to be very heavy on the run game because this offense is heavy with the running game. And the Jets have pretty solid running backs on their roster. You know, you have Michael Carter, who's outstanding right now in camp. He's been running with the ones so far. But Tevin Coleman, who's a veteran, obviously he knows the offense. He knows it pretty well. And he's been with LaFleur and Salah in San Francisco. You know, he might be the running back one. And then you have Ty Johnson, who's also a speedster. You have Michael Pirine from last year. So the Jets have 4 great, pretty decent running backs on the roster. And to ease the pain of Zach Wilson, they're going to use the run game a lot more. If they can get that effective, and I think they will, because all they gotta do is run left. That's all they gotta do. Mekhi Becton and AVT are right there. Those 2 big guys, just run left behind those guys, and you'll get a couple of yards every down. So, you know, I think the run game's gonna be emphasis, and the offensive line's perfect for this. I think it's a big upgrade. The Jets definitely need more. I mean, they have good depth. They need depth at the offensive line position, especially like maybe the center and then the guard. And you know, with George Fant and Morgan Moses coming, we'll see what happens there. But right now, I think the offensive line is pretty decent.
Yeah, I would have to agree. I mean, this is going to be a new offense for us to see because the run sets up the pass. This is not going to be Adam Gase's high school offense as we got to see for 2 years. But again, we're also going to be running finally pre-snap motion. I'm so excited to see that. And also 2 tight end sets. So, Alex, are we ready to get into the Jets-Giants comparison?
Well, I got to do a little preview with Kush, definitely. but we're talking about pre-snap motion. We need to see that at a Jason Garrett this year. Isn't that right, Kush?
Oh my God.
We do. I just don't know if he could actually pull it off, man. It's a question that needs to be asked. We've seen a couple of it throughout some training camp practices. To be honest with you, to be fair, I should say more than to be honest, we haven't really seen that much the offense in training camp practices. So we'll see how it goes. But we do need to see just a lot more creativity in general out of Jason Garrett's offense this year.
I'm going to give – you can give 5 or how many ever you want. I'm going to give up 6 players that I am so enticed to see tomorrow night, and I'm going to give 1 honorable mention.
Real quick, what we're listing, they have to be second and third team, right?
I'm not really, but I'm just going to give you a heads up as that's like who's mostly like to play.
Okay, then.
Number 1 for me, it's going to be Kyle Murphy because obviously there's something to him. The Giants kept him over the past year. Undrafted free agent last year out of Rhode Island, made the practice squad or made the roster, whatever. He stayed with us the whole time, so I'm really enticed to see what that comes out like. Number 2 is David Sills. Last year flashed a lot in camp. We couldn't see all of it because obviously he was behind closed doors. We get to see it, and he should get a lot of snaps within this preseason game, so I'm so excited to see that wide receiver 5 and 6 hole is pretty much open. Number 3 is Vidarius Williams, who's flashed in camp. We said the same thing about Darnay Holmes last year, except he did not see any games. So that's why he started to struggle to start off the season against the Steelers and all the other teams. But you know what? It's a 6th-round pick. You're not going to expect first-round value. Number 4, honestly, a lot of people haven't talked about him, is Sandro Plutzkummer, the Austrian, the NFL international running back. That guy. I want to see how he runs. I want to see how he does in real preseason snaps. This is his first NFL team. Number 5 is Jackson Barton. He came back from the Chiefs, signed with the Giants last year during the waiver wire period. I want to see if he could compete with Nate Solder and Chad Slade for the swing tackle spots. Obviously, Chad Slade does offer some versatility at guard. And number 6, before we go to the honorable mentions, is Gary Brightwell. Obviously, the headlines show Alfred Morris, Corey Clement, and Devontae Booker being the 1 running backs, the number 2 running backs, and the number 3 running backs. I want to see what Gary Brightwell looks like, the 6th-round pick out of Arizona. And with an honorable mention, for a man who's taken off the past year with good reasoning, is Nate Solder. I want to see him. Hopefully he plays because I don't think he shouldn't get an excuse not to play, not like the starting offensive line or whatever. But in terms of a bunch of snaps at right tackle, left tackle, whatever, shows his versatility. Hopefully he shows a reason as to why the Giants should keep him around for this year. Real quickly before Kush gives his opinion, John says only pre-snap motion we had last year was Garrett clapping on the sidelines. And he also says Kyle Murphy has played like everywhere on the O-line in college. Versatile is the best trait.
Yeah, I was going to say on the list you had, I think there's 1 or 2 people that also overlap with guys that I would really want to see tomorrow. So the reason I asked if it's going to be 2nd to 3rd team guys is because of the fact that it's being treated like a 4th preseason game if we usually have 4 preseason games. The reason for that, I could see why Judge wants to do it that way, because after that game, I'm pretty sure all rosters have to be cut down to 90-man roster. So he's like, all right, let me get this out of the way. Let me get the guys that are going to be battling for these spots out of the way right now. And we're going to see more of our stars, I'm guessing, either 2nd or 3rd week. Which do we play first, the Browns or the Patriots?
We play the Browns first.
We play the Browns first. I wouldn't be surprised if he treats week number 3 as what we usually would treat the first preseason game as, and that's when we won't even see any of our stars until week 3. I could really see that happening. But for tomorrow, the 2 guys that overlapped with me were Kyle Murphy. One, because I really want to see his, what he could do with his versatility. I think John, though, mentioned it in the chat. He played basically everywhere on the line in college. He's a guy that we got. Was it last year or this year that we got Kyle Murphy? Last year, right? He didn't really see much of the field the last year. Who knows? Maybe he can see the field this year. And it's no secret that the Giants are looking for inside offensive line depth. I want to see what he could offer. Same thing with Brett Higgy, who's I think might be injured. We'll see if he's activated tomorrow for the game or not. But I remember him being injured recently or not practicing during training camp recently for the same exact reason. He's another guy that the Giants were not necessarily high on, but they were given a lot of snaps to during training camp because he was one of those inside guards that showed them something, and I want to see what exactly it was he was showing them. The other guy to overlap with your list was David Sills. This guy kind of has an army behind him. with good reason. He showed out last year. He's shown out again this year, and this time we're actually seeing a little bit of it. He seems to be somebody that the team loves as well. Anytime the Giants post something on their social media, whether it's on Instagram, Twitter, whatever, he's one of the guys they always ask those little tidbit questions and whatnot. Like today, for example, it was, who's the funniest dude in the locker room? It seems like he has a good relationship with all the wide receivers in there. He definitely has a good relationship with Daniel Jones, because Judge said he was basically like DJ's tail or something like that. Anywhere Daniel went this year to practice, David Sills was there. And, of course, that does a good thing for your QB wide receiver relationship. Adding on to that, and this is going to be somebody that I think is going to be a starter, but I think for sure we might see tomorrow, Azeez Ojulari. I want to see what this man's going to do. I can't wait to see him on the field. I really think he's going to end up being the most impactful pick that we have this year, at least. I mean, to be honest, I think he is the best player we drafted. Man, that's subject to change, obviously, in like next year and the year after, when Kadarius really starts seeing starting snaps and whatnot. But I really do think Azeez was the best player we got. And I really want him. You know, I put so much stock into him, but with good reason. He's somebody I believed in since January, essentially. And I really wanted on the Giants. So glad we got him. He has to develop into that guy, not necessarily right away, but I got to see some flashes. I got to see the pass rushing and the wrecking you were doing at Georgia in the SEC at the college level, rated as one of the best pass rushers in 2020. I need to see that tomorrow, because I do believe he's going to be playing tomorrow. Let's see here. I actually want to see Corey Clement a little bit, as weird as that sounds, because Corey at the Fan Fest was getting a good amount of snaps. It was actually really between him and Morris. Booker got like one or two, but for the most part, and maybe that's because we were seeing the second and third team where we were sitting, but I saw Corey Clement in there quite a bit, and Corey Clement in general has also been getting quite a bit of snaps at running back in training camp. He might end up being that running back number 3, and I mean, the guy is somebody on, you know, that's battling around that spot with a good amount of experience. Obviously, the most experience goes to Morris, but there's no telling how old his body is getting, where he's at with his speed. And I mean, honestly, he was always a slow runner. Even last year for us, he was a super slow runner. So we'll see where that goes. What is that, 4 or 5 players I listed? I think that's like 5, right?
You said Clement, the 2 guys that overlapped in Ojulari.
And
did you say Brett
Higgy?
Higgy?
Yeah, so that's 5, right?
Yeah, that's 5.
All right, and then I could find an honorable mention, honestly. I'm trying to think on the defensive side. Oh, yeah, let's do another overlap, Rodarius, because that was somebody else along with Azeez. From the moment we drafted him, I was like, this is my favorite pick other than Azeez, because he was not supposed to drop to the 6th round. He was somebody that was supposed to go in the 3rd round, in my opinion, and he just, what a steal. Kind of like Darnay Holmes the year before. Darnay was supposed to go in the 3rd. He didn't drop as far. He just dropped 1 round, but Rodarius out here slipped 3. And, I mean, it's just training camp. We'll see if he can translate it to the NFL game. But as of right now, he definitely looks way better than the 6th-round pick.
Real quickly, to read some comments in the chat, JP1880 says, yo, Kush, I play you in week 1 in Yahoo. Easy dub for me.
Oh, word, bro? Let me check out this man's team. This draft literally just got finished, by the way. I'm going to check your team out right now, bro.
Connor Stevens says, what about Tony? Is he still hurt? If he's not still hurt, he's probably not either way, he's not playing tomorrow. He's not playing tomorrow. They're probably going to limit his stuff. I saw a thing on I was looking up Giants headlines to prep for this. And, of course, one I had to see by that idiot, Matt Lombardo, Kadarius Toney buried on New York Giants depth chart amid disappointing camp. Oh, okay, bud.
The unofficial depth chart. Like, come on,
unofficial depth chart, right. And then John Doe says David Sills is also like 6'2", 6'3". We don't have much size besides Slayton and Galladay. Now, let me ask you this. What did you think of the New York Giants signing Ted Larson?
I honestly think it's a camp body. I don't really think there's much stock to put into it. I would love for him to prove me wrong. And I've said this in my past couple of videos towards the end, because we're all kind of worried about the O-line in terms of depth. And we should be. I mean, we should be worried about the O-line depth. Hey, shout out to Authentic in here.
That's the man who should be the Giants' official photographer.
Right? Yeah, I was literally just about to say he had some amazing photos from FanFest. He posted them up today. He also did a really nice, quick, I think it was like a minute-long video recapping FanFest, which videography and editing was amazing as well. It was literally a piece of art. You guys need to go over there and check him out. But yeah, going back to what I was saying with what was I saying actually? What were we talking about?
You're basically talking about how it's a camp body, but you.
Oh yeah, camp body, right? Yeah, because I've been saying this in my last couple of videos towards the end, because we're all worried. We're not gonna see any legit depth signing that I think is gonna like stick around until after 90-man rosters are made, until some players from other teams get cut, basically.
Yeah, that was a good point that Joel brought up. Basically, they're not going to go after guys now. It's going to be, when waiver wire starts coming around and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of like JP1880 says, you'll see Ridley and Henderson will pop off. It'll be fun.
All right, I know it's off topic, but guys, tell me. All right, I'm just gonna lift off my starting team, and you tell me who has. But I'm gonna lift off my opponent for Week 1. This is my starting team.
Okay.
Mahomes, Devontae Adams, Adam Thielen, Jonathan Taylor, Kareem Hunt, George Kittle, T. Higgins, and San Fran defense. He has Ryan Tannehill, Calvin Ridley, Amari Cooper, Alvin Kamara, Josh Dobbins, Logan Thomas, Darrell Henderson, and Buffalo defense. I think that's
yeah. I'm sorry, Kush. I'm gonna have to go with you on this one.
Yeah. Wait, you said you're sorry to me though.
I should say sorry to him.
Yeah.
I gotta go with Kush's team.
Yeah, I don't know, JP. Your team's kind of lacking, bro.
Man, I auto drafted a team that was in one of the leagues, and I'm like, this ain't a bad team. John says, was that a rumor that the assistant offensive line coach was taking reps at guard? I was laughing, but didn't know it was true. It was actually true that Ben Wilkerson was taking some reps at left guard during a walkthrough session. I don't know if it was on Wednesday or Tuesday, something like that. That does worry, but at the same time, I guess it's survival of the fittest. And I guess at this point, it's not like Ted Larson's going to be playing tomorrow either way, but it's going to be the second and third team. It's not going to be, you need all three teams out there. Absolutely not. Need some football talk. Glad you're live for real. Shout out to Authentic once again. Before we slide into the combined topic, who are some guys, in your opinion, that have really, obviously we're not there, unfortunately. Who are some guys, in your opinion, that have fallen and risen up during camp?
Ooh, that's a good one. I'd say, and I got to roll with Bobby on this one because I think Bobby said this during FanFest. At the beginning of training camp, I was off the David Sills train, and then somehow, some way towards now in training camp, I'm back on the David Sills train. He's like somebody that once again had the big camp last year, started off quiet this year, but then really quickly went and showed his stuff again. Risen and fallen. Somebody that's definitely fallen, I'll tell you this. Not necessarily risen back up again, but somebody that's definitely taken a hit, in my opinion, is Shane Lemieux. And a lot of it has to do with his injury, yes. But even before the injury, it's not exactly like we were hearing great things about him. I'm not trying to twist any words and say we were hearing bad things about him. But when I'm looking at the guy that was essentially going to be the hinge on that line, and in my opinion, one of like two players that was going to decide whether or not this line is going to be average this year, and I'm not hearing great things about you, I'm going to get worried, given the Giants' history with offensive line. Somebody that has risen, though, also on the line, which I'm very surprised about, is Nate Solder. I have not expected Nate Solder to be taking reps at guard, and that alone is enough for me to turn my head a little bit and say, all right, let me take a look at what you're doing. Hopefully you could do a bit better. And he's also going to be on the right side, which is going to be way easier than the left. But he's doing a better job than I expected, considering he's been out of football for over, a year and a half now. He's definitely out of football shape, but somehow, some way, he's keeping up with everybody. And, I mean, he also gave us extra money to sign our guys, so that's always a plus in my book as well. Defensively, I think, honestly, there's nobody that's fallen when you think about the defense.
I mean, right? Sam Beal has always been the basement.
Yeah, right. And, I mean, even Sam Beal is like, he still thinks – I mean, you have to be confident as a player. No matter what level of sport you're playing, you always have to have a certain level of confidence with you. But Sam Beal, you need to chill out, bro. Like, I think he said something similar to, like, he's still going to make the team, or, like, he still has a fair shot of making the team. I'm like, yeah, technically, theoretically, I guess. But realistically, no, bro.
Mathematically.
Yeah, you're gone, bro. But, no, defensively, I think everybody's risen. You know what I mean? I can't even think anybody that you could say take a hit defensively. It's really just, in terms of changes for me, will be on the offensive side of football, which makes sense considering that was the problem with the team last year.
For offensive side, I would definitely say Dante Pettis. I'm surprised.
As a fall or a rise?
I would say as a fall a little bit, because Sills been getting more of the reps. I don't know what the hell is going on with John Ross. He was injured a couple practices ago. I want him to play. I guess he's not playing tomorrow. Jonathan Harrison also is likely not playing tomorrow, I guess, because I haven't heard his name. He got injured in one of the practices. Brett Hedgie will be the center likely. Art Stapleton actually had this is his prediction, though, so don't take it with a grain of salt. His guess on the starting offense: Glennon, Booker, then the offensive line, Slade, Wiggins, Hedgie, Burton and Barton, and then Sills and
I
Boyd.
just want to say real quick, the amount of undrafted dudes on there. I don't know if I should be worried or what, man.
Listen, it's their opportunity, and one of the most disappointing parts, I was looking so forward to seeing him in camp. Well, I mean, seeing him in camp and all this other stuff, is that Aaron Robinson. He's not off the PUP list, so he's not going to be playing. I'm like, I wanted that corner, the nickel spot I want to see. And unfortunately, we're not going to get to see it till down the road, and hopefully he doesn't turn into a Sam Beal.
I'll say this, though, right? We're so stacked at the secondary that I'm not really worried at all. You know what I mean? And I said this, I said this in the vid today as well. I mean, Robinson, I think, was going to play. The more I thought about it, I was like, the more I say to myself, he wasn't going to be just a nickel guy. They were definitely going to play him outside. They might have even moved him to safety a little bit. Honestly, the more I thought about it, I'm like, he might be in a Julian Love type of position in terms of where they use him. Love is somebody they use all over the field. And I'm glad that we have somebody that's showing out in Rodarius, who's more specifically kind of an outside corner type of guy who, you know, even though Robinson is out with his abdominal injury, Rodarius is still showing out. And then once again, we're just so stacked. Like, I'm a big believer in Darnay Holmes. And even if Robinson was healthy, I was saying to myself, Holmes was going to win that battle if they really was going to be a battle for the nickel corner spot, the slot corner spot, because he had the whole year experience. He, as a rookie cornerback, was one of the better rookie cornerbacks in the league, the only rookie corner to not allow a touchdown in the league. I have a lot of belief in Darnay. I mean, I don't know if you remember last year, Alex. I had so much belief. I said this man was going to win Defensive Rookie of the Year. I was clearly wrong about that. But that just goes to show how much potential I think this guy has. And I think he's going to show out this year because he had a great rookie year. You know what I'm saying? When you have Deion Sanders saying Darnay Holmes was the best cornerback out of that draft, you're doing something right, bro.
All right. Real quickly, I do want to get to the comments before we get to the combined session. Jason says Solder has demonstrated he's a team player for sure. Whatever he can do to help the club. Definitely, he does have that mentality. Authentic said, going to be tough to see Darnay Holmes take some major hit in playing time with all the talent in the secondary. It's definitely going to be interesting to see, but also, once again, it's not a bad problem unless injuries and bad play starts to happen. I'm really interested to see. I mean, likely not going to happen is if O'Shane Zimenez, because on the unofficial depth chart,
maybe I should have said he was somebody that took a hit, right?
Yeah, with the injury, but now he's back, and then we'll see what happens. So, Luca, as a question, how do you want to get this started? Do you want to do positional matchups by team, like who's better in the quarterback spot?
I like that.
Okay. Luca, if you want, you can pull up the Jets depth chart, whatever. Gotcha. I'm going to have my Giants depth chart with me, even though I kind of memorized it already, honestly. With that being said, if I can just get this first unofficial depth chart here, I think we'll break it down like this. Luca's got the Jets depth chart, but either way, whatever. So we'll break it down in terms of position. Who's better at quarterback? Who's better at running back? Who's better at tight end? Whatever. I think we'll go like that, and then we'll start going into who's going to be on what teams and stuff like that, and expectations and stuff like that. And we could just pretty much go for the facts from there. So quarterbacks, I obviously have pretty much memorized a little bit.
The Jets depth chart.
Okay.
There you go.
So I pretty much memorized most of this depth chart because I was doing the preview and everything. But their quarterbacks, obviously, Ali said that Zach Wilson's going to play a full quarter, so that's going to be obviously their thing. As Joe Judge mentioned, Daniel Jones is not playing tomorrow night, so it's going to be the Mike Glennon show. I'm going to presume that.
So real quick, so what we're doing is going to be comparing who's actually playing tomorrow by position.
Yeah, we do that. So I'm going to assume, in all fairness, it's going to be Glennon the first two quarters, and then Clayton Torson the last two. I think that would be a fair assessment. Once again, I'm not in there with Joe Judge. So it'd be Glennon and Torson versus Wilson. Is Josh Johnson even going to play tomorrow?
We have absolutely no idea.
We have zero idea about any of these quarterbacks playing, but
they're all going to get playing time, though.
Yeah.
I think if anyone, Josh Johnson's probably not going to get the playing time, but James Morgan and White are both battling it out.
Yeah. Because like the first day, what was it, last last Wednesday, the Wednesday before this one, we were at Jets training camp, and that was actually Josh Johnson's first day there. So I'm like, well, is this guy going to play? It looks like he's not. So it's 3 versus 2 in terms of quarterbacks. But in terms of quarterback battles, at least my thoughts, and we maybe go down the row or whatever and provide our thoughts. I think possibly, and both these guys have strong arms, but they haven't been accurate. But 2 levels of experience: Wilson and then Glennon, and then it's going to be Glennon versus your second string, which is Mike White. Then going to the third quarter, it's going to be Morgan and Torson, 2 guys that haven't played in the preseason. Well, Torson has, but and then you have what's his face. Actually, yeah, that's the end of that matchup. So
Yeah.
I'm going to go down the round table here, and who wins the quarterback matchup? I'm going to start with Luca.
So, in terms of starting quarterback, I'm just going to say Glennon's probably going to do better. I'm not totally sure how Wilson's going to play or whatever. In terms of, like you said, it was Glennon versus the backups, or is it Torson versus the backups?
Well,
I think what he means is it's going to be because we only got 2 backup quarterbacks. Those 2 are what you're going to see for the entire game, basically.
Yeah, so basically, if we're going to go off projections right now, it's going to be Glennon first half, Torson second half.
But I could also see Glennon struggling against our defensive line, knowing that we might just play the starters.
Someone's flexing.
Yes.
I mean, he's not lying. If they're playing the starters and they're going up against our second string line, I'd agree with his sentiment, bro.
Yeah, that's if the defensive line doesn't get to the quarterback. But since you guys are playing your second, you know what? I actually got to think about this because you guys are playing your second string defensive line compared to your first string, and your second string secondary compared to your first string. So I think I might give Wilson the chance, give Wilson the nod here. Unbiased, just saying.
Okay.
In terms of backups, I think Glennon's going to do better than both Morgan and White.
Okay. Is that your assessment on the quarterbacks, or?
Yes.
Okay. Ollie, your opinion?
Yeah, I'm kind of on the same boat just because I know that Salah's going to keep the starters out there for at least 2-3 drives at least, especially on the defense and offense, just to get the guys out there because he hasn't played with these guys ever. So he wants to see how they do against actual competition. But so I think starting quarterback-wise, I think it's going to be probably Zach Wilson. I think the Jets' defensive line is pretty solid, especially if they play all the guys that they have. And the depth is pretty good at the Jets' defensive line as well. And that's not just me saying that. That's everywhere in the NFL saying that, that the Jets' depth are pretty good at that certain position. And I know the Giants' offensive line is struggling a lot right now, especially their depth. So I know that. So I think they won that. But then when you go to the backups and when Zach Wilson's benched, Mike Glennon probably has the most experience out of everyone, and he has played game experience. James Morgan, White have not played an actual football game in a regular season. It's that simple. They're just fighting for a roster spot. They've looked decent in camp, but that's just camp. They're going to go actually against an actual team. So I think Glennon has the nod over there, and those 2 backups will probably be better than the Jets. But, I could see the Jets slinging it around because James Morgan and White have a big arm, and the Jets have been tossing it with both of those guys all offseason. In training camp, if you watch, all the beat reporters are saying 50-yard bomb to Braxton Berrios or Jeff Smith or Vincent Smith, something like that, all practice long. So I think they're going to stretch the field out, and I don't know how good the cornerbacks are for the Giants, especially for their second or third team. So I don't know how good they are. But the Jets wide receiver core is pretty decent, especially the backups. So they're going to be fighting it out. And all these guys are fighting for roster spots because of how deep it is at wide receiver. So that will impact the quarterback play significantly. And especially these quarterbacks are going to come out because the Jets quarterbacks are fighting for a spot on the roster. So, yeah, I think that's pretty much what Luke said, but just more explained.
Yeah.
Before I say mine, can you just scroll down real quick to the defensive depth chart?
Sure.
Of course, Luke is going to try to say some stupid shit like Daniel Jones, the first team scared of the D-line.
He is.
Now, what I'm looking at is actually I want to get a look at their secondary past the first team, basically. So can you go down a little bit more?
Sure.
I bet. Yeah, so I was gonna go with Zach Wilson like everybody else, but then I think it was Ali that said it's only gonna be for like 3 drives or so, and then it clicked. I'm like, yeah, regular preseason, you don't have them in there for a full quarter. It's a couple of drives. That's why I'm gonna go with Glennon because it's only gonna be a couple of drives where the stars are gonna be out there. I'd be very surprised if it's a full quarter. That's definitely a risk, but I'd say maybe at most 5 or 6 drives. I'd really be surprised if it's more than that. But for that reason, I'm gonna roll with Glennon because. I know the D line has good depth, but what I'm looking at is the secondary depth because my Glennon can dink and dunk. He's a dink and dunk god, and if the secondary depth doesn't match up that well with our wide receiver depth, which thank God we have good wide receiver depth now, I think that the dink and dunk might win out. So I'm gonna go with Glennon, and also because once again he's gonna be in there for like a whole half. Wilson's probably gonna be in there for like a couple of drives.
Both sides have made fair assessments so far. Luca, if you'll scroll up to the running back, that is our next one. And then I think once we get to like the real position, the real battles in terms of like O-line versus D-line, wide receiver versus cornerback, those and the tight ends, we'll obviously discuss tight ends, safeties, but I think that's also going to be a good conversation as well. Lucas, okay, you're right there. So in terms of running backs, I'm going to say, and once again, Tevin Coleman, obviously, when he's not hurt, he's a decent back. You guys do have some interesting depth in terms of running back. I'm going to say, honestly, that the Giants have a little bit of an edge here. Now, you guys, I think, have the same amount of running backs. We're not playing Saquon, and if we did, I'd kind of be upset.
I would definitely be upset.
Yeah, because I'm like, it's preseason. But we do have some, in my opinion, more experienced backs. Like, you take a look at the Jets depth chart. Michael Perrine, he played – towards the back end of the year more last year, even though, as Luca called it, he meaning Adam Gase, was very obsessed with Frank Gore.
Yeah, everybody.
He even made a dirty comment towards him, but we're going to try to stay as PG as possible. With that being said, Ty Johnson did also get some meaningful reps towards the back end of the season last year. Then you move deeper. Michael Carter, the draft pick from North Carolina, Josh Adams, the former Notre Dame prospect. And then we had this guy about 2 years ago when we were bad in terms of depth at running back during the Patriots game in week 6 in 2019, Austin Walter. So where I'll give the Giants the exclusive hand is Devontae Booker. He had some meaningful snaps last year with the Las Vegas Raiders. I almost said Oakland, but that's okay. Corey Clement, even though he's never started a game in his career, meaningful snaps in the preseason, special teams, that type of stuff. Alfred Morris did get a lot of meaningful snaps aside from Wayne Gallman down the stretch last year for the New York Giants, also due to the fact that we were very run heavy in terms of putting it into the end zone. From there, you have Gary Brightwell, so that's a draft pick that obviously can match up with Michael Carter, but they do 2 different things. And if I'm not mistaken, finally, you do have Sandra Plutzgummer, which is a question mark. But I honestly, in terms of experience and all that stuff, I give the Giants the complete W in terms of the running back section. Luca, what do you think?
I'm unbiasedly going to go with the Jets here. The Jets have a lot more speed, a lot more burst, and I think they're going to fit through the offensive line fine, as they've been running well through the offensive line, excellently through the camp. And I understand your point with all the experience and whatnot, but these guys have burst, and they're going to be running a lot in the scheme during the regular season. So I got to give it to the Jets here.
Ali?
Yeah, for the Jets' perspective of it, I think they're going to try to run the ball more than the Giants, especially because this offense relies on the run game. I think with the battles, I don't think Coleman's going to play very long because you know what you can get with Coleman, and he's also an injury-prone running back, so I don't think they're going to put him out there for very long. Michael Carter as well, he's a rookie, and I think they like him already, so I don't think they're going to put him that much. The question mark is Ty Johnson. Ty Johnson, Michael Perrine, Josh Adams, and Austin Walter. Those are the running backs you're going to see for the New York Jets for most of the game. because they're guys that are fighting for the last 2 spots on the roster. It's pretty obvious to see that Ty Johnson and Michael Pirine are probably going to be the 2 running backs that make it, and Walter gets cut, and Josh Adam also gets cut. But right now, those guys don't know that, and they're going to be fighting for the job. So I feel like the Jets running back crew is more hungry than the Giants. It's more of a fit for the offense, and I think they're just going to try to get all the stress off the quarterbacks as much as possible and let them run a little bit. But yeah, I mean, I could see the Giants winning in that battle, but I just think the Jets are in that attempt more than the Giants at the running back position.
Now, Kush.
I'm gonna go with the Giants. A lot of it has to do with experience. A lot of it has to do with guys that are actually kind of the opposite in terms of in terms of injury prone. Like Saquon, I'm not gonna say Saquon's injury prone yet, although there is an argument for that. But our backups are kind of the exact opposite. Devontae Booker, I think, have played damn near every game in his career. Alfred Morris is trying to be Frank Gore 2.0 with how long he wants to go with his career. Corey Clement, maybe he's the only person I think that's might have missed a few. I could be wrong on that. I'm not sure. Might have to check that up. These are guys that I got no problem with the Giants throwing in there and running a lot. And I will say we're also going to run the ball a lot because of the specific reason of one of these guys or a couple of these guys might end up being an insurance policy in the worst case scenario for Saquon. So I do think we're going to run it just as much, if not as more than the Jets tomorrow. But I'm going to go with the Giants on this one. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that we're going to be trying to see, hey, what happens in the worst case scenario if Saquon goes down? And we're going to basically be running Devontae Booker, Gary Brightwell, and Alfred Morris the entire season.
Just as an update, Authentic mentioned a little part of it. From what I've seen, the Dallas offense, just Dallas Cardinals game looks like shit. But it's a
Keanu Neal made a big play, I think.
I wouldn't be too surprised, but as a score update, it's still 0-0. But obviously, once again, Colt McCoy is starting the game. So, former Giant there. Before we get into the O-line, D-line, we could do tight ends and safeties. So in terms of,
I thought it was going to be wide receivers.
No, wide receivers, cornerbacks. That could be. I mean, we could still do the wide receivers and wide receivers, but let's jump really quickly into tight ends. Okay, you're on the tight ends page. So for the Giants, you have Mr. Butterfingers, who did drop a pass when we were there on Wednesday, wide open. You have him. Obviously, Kyle Rudolph is not off the PUP list, so he's not going to play. Caden Smith. It's debatable if he plays. I think he will because he's on that 1-2 squad. You look at the other tight ends, Cole Hicatini. I think there is some competition at the back end because I didn't think that the tight ends were too bad on Wednesday from what I saw. Cole Hicatini was definitely taking reps with the first team. Nakia Griffith-Stewart, Jake Hausman. Those are some guys to watch out for. Rice and John as well. In terms of Jets tight ends, they have Chris Herndon, Ryan Griffin, Tyler Croft. So that's definitely a good batch of experienced tight ends. You look at the back end, they have more younger guys. Trayvon Wesco, who they drafted, I think, in 2019, Daniel Brown, and Kenny Yeboah. So it's so much depending. If the Giants are going to play their starters, I'm going to take the Giants by a small margin because of, Mr. Butterfingers. But if Ingram doesn't play,
I don't think Ingram's going to play. I think we could safely assume Ingram's not going to play because he is definitely injury prone.
Yeah. If we're going to assume that he's not going to play, then it's Caden Smith and the backups. I'm going to have to go with the Jets here. Yeah. Ryan Griffin, he had some meaningful experience with the Texans a couple of years ago, the Jets in the last couple of years, Tyler Croft with the Bills and the Bengals. In terms of Chris Herndon, he's been on and off the field, but I think if he's healthy, he could probably make for a solid tight end. I don't know. What do you say, Luca?
I'm going to take the Jets one unbiasedly again. Chris Herndon, I think this is a make-or-break year for him because his first year was really good in terms of a rookie year. Second year, he was injured and didn't play much. Third year, which was last year, he was really bad, dropped some easy passes, didn't really go on the field much, whatever. But this is going to be a proven year for him, and just the experience overall and the hungriness of Chris Herndon, and overall with the experience of Griffin, Croft, Daniel Brown, Kenny Yeboah is going to be hungry for a roster spot. I got to take the Jets here.
Ollie?
Yeah, I probably will take the Jets with here too because of the competition at that position. I think they're going to be putting all these tight ends, especially with the two tight end set in this offense. They're going to have a lot of tight ends on the field, and there's a good chance they catch the ball, either from Zach Wilson, James Morgan, White. It's going to be – there's a good chance a tight end catches the ball in the real game. We haven't really seen that in practice, but it probably will be different in the game because the practice never translate to what's on the field on game day. So I think the Jets just have a lot of question marks at the tight end position. Chris Herndon, it's like you said, pretty much I have not put anything on him yet. I have absolutely no expectations for him. He's gonna have to shock me. Tyler Croft, I think he could be the tight end one. I think Chris Herndon and them are gonna fight for it. Griffin's a solid tight end. We'll see how he does. Wesco is a fullback. I feel like he's not going to be really in the tight end scenario, so I would rule him out there. And then Daniel Brown and Kenny Yeboah are going to be fighting for a roster spot. Yeboah is the guy that, is a fan favorite. He's a guy that people think that he should have been drafted this year instead of going undrafted. So we'll see. He's going to be fighting for a roster spot on this offense as well. So, I think I'll take the Jets on this right now because they do not have Evan Ingram because Evan Ingram is better than all these tight ends, even though he drops a lot of passes, has a lot of issues. But he's still the best tight end out of all this group, but he's not playing, so I'll take the Jets.
Yeah, there's not much for me to add here. I'm going to go with the Jets because the only guy that's going to be playing for us that we've really seen was Caden Smith. Shout out to my guy Ryson John, who back in 2019 I thought was going to be what Evan Ingram was supposed to be. He never saw the field. He was an undrafted free agent. I guess I'll have to see him tomorrow. But yeah, this just comes down to, I think, depth collectively at the tight end position is better for the Jets right now. Because, for example, if Ingram didn't play, but let's say we had a healthy Kyle Rudolph, I'll go with the Giants. But Kyle Rudolph is still on the PUP list. So yeah, that's what it comes down to.
Yeah, I do agree with that. Luca, if you'll scroll down to the safety position, I think there's going to be some interesting talk there.
By the way, I do want to say so far, we've all stuck with our team. I feel like this is where it might start changing up.
Yeah. In terms of their safeties, they have a good starting two, Marcus May and LaMarcus Joyner from the Raiders and the Rams. JT Hassel and Sherrod Niesman, don't know much about them, honestly. And then a former Giant, Bennett Jackson at safety. He was a fifth-round pick of them in, I think, 2013, 2014. And they also have Zane Lewis there. You take a look at the Giants, who are, I think, a little more filled up at that position. You have, as so far per the depth chart, Logan Ryan and Jabril Peppers. Then you have Julian Love and Xavier McKinney. Then Quincy Wilson and Josh Kalu. And then in the back end, you got Montre Hartage, Chris Johnson, who might have been waived. I'm not sure. And then you have Chris Milton. Jordan Peters was cut today. I'm going to have to go with the Giants here. I know I've stuck to my team a lot during this, but
well, we both went with the Jets last round, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. But I think the way Logan Ryan came in, changed positions, played last year, I thought Jabril Peppers also played well. Probably one of his best seasons. Xavier McKinney showed a lot of potential in that Cowboy game. Julian Love just, being a versatile guy between the cornerback and safety position. And then obviously you got the backup guys on there. So I'm going to have to go with the Giants.
Alex, I'm just going to ask you, what's making you pick the Giants? Is it Julian Love? Is it Logan Ryan? Is it Jabril Peppers?
It's going to be it's Pepper. It's a mixture of Peppers. But
do you think Peppers is going to play tomorrow?
No. So
then hold on a second. I thought we were talking about like tomorrow in terms of why you.
Okay, so if he does play tomorrow, which probably won't happen, I'll say the Giants. If he doesn't play, I might want to go the Giants by an instant pitch, honestly, because Logan Ryan played better than many would assume last year, and it excites me, Xavier McKinney. And
yeah, I was going to say, even if Peppers doesn't start, a combination of Logan Ryan and Xavier McKinney, I think, matches up really well versus Marcus May and LaMarcus Joyner. I don't know why that's hard to believe.
And LaMarcus Joyner, I mean, this is just going off of like a couple other sources, is coming off not such a great year in Las Vegas.
He was also not in his niche. He wasn't in his right position. They put him at corner.
Well, real quickly, Jason says, want to see our second-year linebackers Brown, Crowder, and Coughlin show well tomorrow versus Wilson. Most likely, if they're going to be a player worth keeping forward, they should jump in production this year. Luca, what do you say?
As of starters, like Marcus May and LaMarcus Joyner versus like Logan Ryan, Jabril Peppers, I'm going to say the Jets. But if I had to go safety depth, I'd probably say the Giants. Because LaMarcus Joyner's back in his natural niche. He's in his safety position. He's not playing corner with the Raiders anymore, so he'll be fine.
I agree with you there, because if LaMarcus Joyner picks up where he left off for, say, with the Rams, I think it was where he was before the Raiders. If he picks up there and it's, say, LaMarcus and Marcus, oh, that's hilarious. LaMarcus and Marcus versus, on the other side, it would be what I think would be Logan and Xavier. LaMarcus is the best out of that, but the combination of Logan and Xavier, I think, is better than the combination of LaMarcus and Marcus. And then the depth behind them as well, I think, is better than JT Hassel and Niesman. Yeah.
Ali?
Yeah, I'm going to have to go to the Giants here. It's just, for me, it's with the Jets secondary. Obviously, I do love Marcus May. I do like Joyner. But after that, it's a big question mark on how they perform throughout the game. JT Hassel, we'll see what happens. Newsome he's a standout. We'll see how he does. And then Bennett Jackson, Zane Lewis is going to be out there. Probably not. So, and then for the Giants, Jabril Peppers are probably not going to play, but he's better than both. I feel like maybe not Marcus, but probably better than Joyner. Logan Ryan, obviously Logan Ryan. But I do like Xavier McKinney's potential. I do like Julian Love's potential as well. I think they're going to be fun to see, and I think they just have more depth at that position right now. The Jets do not have Ashton Davis right now. He's not playing. He's hurt, so we won't see him until week 2 of the regular season. So right now, for this game, it's the Giants.
Yeah, for me, the safety depth really, I mean, I don't know. If it's like a weird feeling to me, but this is like a big year where we have actual cornerback and safety depth. But just to have, Logan Ryan, an experienced guy coming off a decent year, and Jabril Peppers on the first team, ideologically, and then you have McKinney and Julian Love on the second team, I think that has all sorts of roots to grow. And I think that's pretty much the safety position. So now we could go into who has a better O-line and who's going to match up better O-line, D-line, stuff like that. So, Luca, if you want to pull up the O-line.
Just going to note, Vera Tucker probably isn't playing tomorrow. He's not going to be ready till the Green Bay game.
Jesus. Okay,
what's up with him? An injury or something?
Yeah, he's injured.
Him, Darisaw, and somebody else are injured in terms of the first-round picks. So that's interesting.
Oh, by the way, it is going viral on Twitter. Russo absolutely owned Penei Sewell in the matchup tonight.
But the Bills do train their pass rushers well. Also, to note, now I forgot what I was going to say. Okay, anyway.
Yeah, because I was surprised by that too, bro. I saw the video of it. Penei was low-key no match.
Yeah. Speaking of which, now I remembered, Julian Okwara, who I think he was drafted by them last year. I wanted him. He had 5 quarterback hits against the Bills, so that's a pretty impressive night from the former Notre Dame prospect. But you look at O-line, Giants' first-team O-line, in my opinion, is likely not going to play. It's kind of like the situation 2 years ago when the last game I went to, which was Giants-Bears, Giants' first team played, the Bears' first team did not play. But you take a look at the Jets' first team, I think it's obviously going to go over the second team of the Giants. Mekhi Becton, Dan Feeney, Connor McGovern, Greg Van Roten, and likely Morgan Moses. George Fant, even in there, tops the second team Giants. It also depends, in my opinion, who they could possibly mix in there. If they're going to mix in Matt Parrott, I don't think they will. But as Art Stapleton predicted, that he thinks that's going to be Slade, Wiggins, Hedgie, Burton, and Barton. So in that case, I'm obviously going to take the Jets D-line and the first team and the Jets O-line in terms of comparisons. In terms of their second team O-line, it's a little okay. Never mind. It's a little screwy for both teams actually, because like you see the second team, but Dan Finney's playing on the first team. Cameron Clark's injured; he's on the third team, so it's kind of a little weird. And I think Adoga's injured, if I'm not mistaken, as well.
Yes, he is.
So you kind of have to mix it up and be creative a little bit. So on the assumption, I'm going to be creative here. Connor McDermott. We don't really have a third team either, so it's just going to be mixed. Connor McDermott, then Tristan Hogue, Jimmy Murray, Corey Levin, and Grant Herman.
Or George
Fant. Against the Giants' second team, which you could mix in Kyle Murphy as well, but it's likely going to be that same line. So, honestly, I'm going to speak to the honest truth here. I have not heard of like 3-4 of the guys on the line other than maybe Dan Feeney, but once again, this is, I guess, maybe a bunch of scraps or undrafted guys playing. I'm going to slightly take the Giants here. Now, once again,
What is this line?
this is offensive line.
Oh,
I'm going to
no.
slightly take the Giants here in terms of a second team line, because it looks like there's going to be second team, not third team, not fourth team, because it's all screwy with the injuries and stuff like that. But I'm going to take the Giants slightly because Chad Slade has a little bit of experience.
Yeah.
Kenny Wiggins has started multiple games in his career between the Chargers and the Lions. Hedgie, undrafted free agent. Burton, undrafted free agent. And Barton got some time in camp with the Chiefs last year. The year before that, the Indianapolis Colts. He was a 7th-round pick of them. In terms of the Jets' second team defensive line, let me see that real quick. I already said that the first team was going to beat the second team Giants O-line, but I'm talking, in this case, second team versus second team. Ronald Blair, Tenzel Smart, Nathan Shepard, Bryce Huff. So I'm going to have to go slightly with the Jets here in terms of that matchup.
For the D-line?
For the D-line versus the second team O-line. Because Ronald Blair has gotten some experience with the 49ers. I don't know where Smart came from, honestly.
I think he came from the Rams.
Okay. Huff had some snaps last year, from what I know, and Nathan Shepard as well. So slightly, I could be wrong on this. It could actually go either way, but I'm slightly going to go with the Jets' second team D-line versus the O-line. In terms of third team, I think I'm going to take my chances with the Giants O-line because Zuniga barely played last year, if he played at all. Jonathan Marshall's a draft pick, and I have no idea who the other two are, even though Hamel Carver-Sheed, I think, was an underrated prospect this year's draft. So that's my statement on the O-line, even though it was like 700 minutes long. Luca, go ahead.
In terms of starting O-line for the Jets versus second team O-line for the Giants, I'm going to take the Jets. I'm also going to take the Jets' first team defensive line. Alex, can you rattle off your second team offensive line so I can try to compare?
So it's a mixture of things, but likely Chad Slade, Kenny Wiggins, Brett Hedgie, Jake Burton, Jackson Barton, with a mixture of Kyle Murphy in there. So
I really prefer neither, but if I had to go with experience, I'd probably go with the Jets in that situation. It's just I've never really seen these guys play, not the Jets, but the Giants standpoint. But I also like the defensive depth for the Jets when it comes to defensive line, so I'm going to go with them.
In terms of what? Like, in terms of what D-line versus O-line, second team, be specific.
It's Jets second team versus Giants. Jets second team defensive line versus Giants second team.
Oh, all right. Ali?
Yeah, I'm just gonna take the Jets on pretty much everything right now. I just don't. I like the Jets' defensive line depth incredibly. I think the Jets, for having the second team being Jabari Zuniga and Jonathan Marshall, it's pretty good as a third team on the D line. And having Nathan Shepard also with the second team. Fatu Kasi is really good. Franklin Myers, Bryce Hubb made a lot of plays last year when he was on the field, and he made a lot of training camp plays this year on first team. So he has first team experience. So I think the Jets defensive line is going to be killing the offensive line of the Giants because they're struggling big time at the offensive line position. the starters, the backups, all those guys. So, and I don't think you're going to start most of your starters. Your backups are going to struggle against the Jets defensive line for the entire game. But I think the offensive line purposes, I think the Jets probably will keep their starting offensive line 2 to 3 drives until Zach Wilson stays in the game, which I don't think is going to last long because Mekhi Becton last year when he put a reps, he almost got hurt. So I don't think they're going to try to risk that as well because of his weight and height and all that stuff. So for right now, I would probably take the Jets for everything.
One thing real quickly before I let Kush go, I don't know how I missed it, but in terms of O-line and D-line, I didn't even mention the Giants' defensive line. The first team I'm not going to do because they're likely not playing. You take a look at the second team defensive line. It's Danny Shelton. Obviously, you have to factor in it's a 3-4 system, so they're using other linebackers as well. It's going to be Trent Harris, B.J. Hill, Danny Shelton, Raymond Johnson, and Azeez Ojulari in there. If they face the first team Jets, I think they'll slightly have an edge in terms of the Jets' offensive line, the first team. In terms of the second team, I think that's an automatic win, in my opinion, because you have more experienced guys on the second team Giants D-line compared to the O-line. In terms of third team, it's really a mix and match. David Moa and Elijah Qualls do have some experience. Qualls more than Moa. Qualls won a Super Bowl with the Eagles. At one of the defensive end spots, Cam Brown and Oda Nigbo, I think those both can have an impact in the game. Also, that's actually pretty much it. Also, as well, Ellerson Smith is probably not playing. Nico Lalos, who did make sort of an impact for the New York Giants last year. So I think it would be slightly third team-ish over the second team based on experience and stuff like that. So I'll let Kush go.
So I like my desserts first. So I'm gonna start with the sweet stuff first. I'm gonna start with the good news first. The good news is, whenever the Giants second team is facing the Jets second team, that's a W for us. Whenever we're facing the Jets first team, this is D-line, Giants D-line versus Jets O-line. When we're facing their first team O-line, I think that's gonna be a Jets W. Yeah, that's gonna be a Jets W. That's their first team O-line. And then, yeah, I said second team versus second team is the Giants. For the O-line, Giants side, yeah, it's an L for our second team versus their first team D-line. And it's probably going to be an L for a second team versus their second team O-line. I mean D-line. But I'm going to be happy in terms of our defensive performance. You know what I'm saying? We got one of the best D-lines all around in the league. So, and defense is all around the league. So I'm just going to be generally happy with that.
And even in the preseason, even though we didn't get to see it last year, I have a feeling that Patrick Graham it's probably gonna be the most vanilla defense ever. Being it's the preseason, I feel like he's just gonna scheme something up, and it's gonna look absolutely nothing like the regular season. But it's still gonna be good. The next one's even more interesting, which is going to be the wide receiver and cornerback matchups. Luca, if you could scroll down just a tiny pinch, I already know what our wide receivers are looking like. Okay, so you guys got about base 3.
After the wide receiver and corners matchup, what is there? Because I got a dip at 11.
Okay.
Same.
Wide receivers and corner matchup for our team. Obviously, let me go with their wide receivers first. So it's going to be Davis, Crowder, and Keelan Cole versus, our first team is likely not playing, so you could factor that out. It's probably going to be David Sills. John Ross is not playing, so it's going to be Sills, Pettis, Bachman. Board could also factor in there. So in terms of cornerbacks for the New York Giants, you'll probably see Isaac Yiadom, Rodarius Williams, Madre Harper in there. And then the second team being likely, if Sam Beal even plays, which is, even weirder at this point because I think he was injured or something like that. Jaron Williams also is injured. So it's a real mess in the secondary, but also could be schemed out really nicely. I think Williams, Harper, and
I'll say it is the two guys that for sure aren't playing tomorrow are Bradbury and Jackson, but I wouldn't be surprised if Darnay plays tomorrow.
Yeah, just to get some experience in there. But in terms of wide receiver versus wide receiver for the first team versus the second team, I'll take the Jets. In terms of cornerback matchups, I'll take the Jets slightly. In terms of the second team Jets matchups, Mims, Berrios, and Moore. I think our defense in terms of the second
Oh,
team.
Barrios might not even play, Alex. Just gonna let you know.
Okay, so your guy behind him, Jeff Smith.
Barrios and Moore are not playing.
Okay, so it's going to be Mims, Jeff Smith, Vincent Smith, or Josh Malone. You could definitely mix them up there. I think with that being said, I think the Giants secondary could definitely get a win out of that. In terms of third team for the Giants, it's likely going to be the scraps: Austin Mack, Damian Willis, Alex Bachman, Matt Cole. Then versus your guys, Lawrence Cager, Manhassa Bailey, and DJ Montgomery. I'm going to take the Giants slightly because Dante Pettis does have some experience. CJ Board as well. Austin Mack showed some things for the Giants last year. In terms of cornerbacks, Giants wide receivers, I think the second team can win against your guys. The third team, it's going to be an even matchup. So I'll let Ali and the Hub go because I know they do have to dip in about a couple of minutes.
Yeah, so for the wideouts, to start, I think the Jets win that. I think the Jets have upgraded their entire offensive weapons, and the Giants are not going to have their weapons out there with Kenny Galladay, Kadarius Toney, Darius Slayton. I don't know if Slayton's playing. I don't think Sterling Shepard's playing. So, I think the Jets are going to have like Crowder out there. I think Corey Davis is going to probably be out there as well. Keelan Cole is going to be out there. So I think we're going to beat the secondary at the corner-wise in that matchup. And that's going to match up pretty well for the Jets side of things. Other than that, I think the Jets are going to struggle on the cornerback end because we just don't know. Besides Bryce Hall and Bless Austin, you're going to see some Isaiah Dunn who's taking first-team reps lately in practice. You're going to see let me look at the list. Brandon Echols was also he's also fighting for a spot, and he's been playing pretty well. And then the rest are pretty much, rookies. And then you got Justin Hardy, who's a special teams guy who's probably not going to play safe cornerback as often as you should. But I think the Giants wide receivers probably will have. I think that will be an even battle back and forth. I wouldn't want to pick a side there because it's kind of evenly battled right now. And then the third team, I think the Giants cornerback just have more depth than the Jets because the Jets is just, we haven't seen them on tape. We haven't seen them on the field. We just don't know. The Giants, we've seen some of these guys play even in preseason. We've seen them play. So I think the Giants in that perspective are better. But yeah.
Real quickly.
Yeah, go ahead.
Real quickly before we move on to the Hub, real quick, who do you think's winning this game?
Jets.
Probably the Jets, but I just don't care. I really, really don't care. I just want to see the starters do well, and that's pretty much it. That's all I care about. No injuries. It's preseason. It's a learning curve, but I think the Jets are going to pull it off.
Kush?
Yeah, I said Jets as well. I think the Jets might take this one because it's two different approaches. One team is taking the regular first week approach. We're taking the end of the preseason type. I really do think we're gonna have a reverse where week 1 is treated like the last week, and the last week is gonna be treated like the first week. So that's gonna be interesting to see. But before I do go, the phone call I was just on was my friend calling me to let me know to check my channel, and let's go, boys. I literally just hit 3,000 subs on YouTube. That's what's up. I didn't think that was going to happen until the season started, but now I got to do a giveaway. You already know, anytime I hit a milestone and do a giveaway, if any of y'all interested, well, I'm guessing Alex would be the only one interested since he's the only Giants fan here. I'll be doing that moving forward. But in terms of the Giants wide receivers versus the Jets corners, so second team versus first team, I'm going to roll with the Jets corners over our second team wide receivers. But then second team versus second team, I'm going to roll with the Giants wide receivers over the Jets corners. And then flipping it over with our second team corners going up against their first team wide receivers, who's not playing for their first team wide receivers?
Let's see. I think all your first team wide receivers are playing, right, Luca?
Yeah, Davis is playing.
Elijah's out. He's our first.
Elijah's out. Barrios is out. That's the second team.
It's going to be Davis. It's going to be Cole. It's going to be Crowder.
Davis, Cole, and Crowder.
for the
And
first team.
you probably would see them for like 1 to 2 drives, and then probably put
Yeah.
Mims in there with.
I'll be honest with you. The only person I think that will get the best of our secondary is going to be Corey Davis. Corey Davis is a very underrated wide receiver. I wanted him on the Giants this past offseason really badly. I love Corey Davis. Keenan Cole and James. I mean, we know Jamison Crowder. He was in our division for quite a while. The Giants as a team know him. I'm not scared of him. And then Keenan Cole, I think, is going to be an all right dude. But I'll say this. It's going to be an even matchup, I think, because Corey Davis really – I'm telling y'all, bro, this man Corey Davis is super underrated, in my opinion. That's just me. And then when it comes to second team versus second team, I'll give it to the Giants defense, and that's what I got.
Any final thoughts from the two of you guys? Because I know you guys said you had to dip.
I guess I'll go first. First of all, shout out to you, Alex, for inviting me on, man. It's always a pleasure coming on here. It was a pleasure meeting you and your brother in real life. You guys are super cool, a bit shorter than I expected. I guess the camera makes you a bit big. I'm gonna be honest, bro. When I was walking up, I was like, "That's not Alex, is it? He's kind of small." But it was Alex. And you guys are like the exact same size in real life too. I thought there might have been one taller than the other, but no, it's the exact same.
Well, Luca
size.
is taller by a bit.
Really? Is it like half an inch or something?
Inch, 2 inches.
Who has more muscle?
Probably me.
Oh, bad. That was up, bro. Keep hitting the gym, bro. I got you.
Yeah, okay.
He says okay. But you guys are amazing. Shout out to Ali, bro. It was nice meeting you, man. I'm always happy to come on, talk Giants. I'll be happy to watch this game tomorrow. Everybody in the chat, thank you for being here. And yeah, thank you, Authentic. He was like, congrats, man. It means a lot. I'm be out though, guys. Peace.
Peace out.
See you, man.
Yeah. I know I'm a Jets fan, but if you're a Giants fan, a Yankees fan, a Mets fan, I do events with all those type of guys. I did Saquon not too long ago. We're doing Eli. We're doing Tom Coughlin soon. We're doing every event. So I pretty much engage with every New York sports team. So if you guys are interested, definitely message me. I know it's a Jets page, but I do a lot more stuff than just Jets. But yeah, I mean, I've covered the Giants before. I don't know if I'm going to do it again, but I've done it in the past years. So thank you guys for having me on, man. It was really fun. It was definitely, I liked how this show went. I liked how we did a couple of things, especially for preseason. It's hard to find content for preseason. Thank you guys for having me on. I know it was last second. I know I wish I could be on longer, but there's just a lot of craziness going on right now. So
you're a busy man, Ali.
Yeah, I mean, I'm getting a new apartment on Tuesday for school. So I'm like, my room is just a mess. You can't see it right now because I'm blocked it off. But like, all this is a mess. I'm trying to move everything out, and then the Jets game's tomorrow. I have an event at home. There's a lot going on right now. So I tried to find time to do this because I couldn't do it for my own channel. So yeah, I mean, thank you guys for having me on, and hopefully we'll do it soon.
Peace out.
Yep.
Thanks, man.
All right, see you guys.
All right, so that was that. Obviously, we'll wrap it up in a few minutes. I know you do want to go over the summer league, but you want to talk some trash?
We're gonna win tomorrow. That's what I know. We're gonna win tomorrow.
Shouts to Authentic in the chat. He said, "I thought Alex was 6 foot before seeing y'all at FanFest." Yeah, I was gonna get the impression. I was thinking of getting the impression that like many people are gonna get the impression. Oh, I thought this guy was taller. Jaden said that. A lot of people said that, but it's fine. At least you get to meet people in public and stuff like that. Luke over here saying that the Jets D-line scared the Giants out of playing.
Jets D-line's going to smoke your offensive line.
Yeah, you know who's the Giants secondary is going to win this game.
Okay.
Oh yeah. Okay. And then you know what? Diggy was talking about on Twitter. You're talking about Elijah Moore. He's beating trash corners. You heard
Okay.
Ali. He said that the corner spot's not good.
I know the corner spot's not good, but watch him in the preseason and let him translate that into the regular season.
Too bad he's not playing.
Let him when he plays next week. Hopefully, he's gonna trash Green Bay's corners.
Okay, yeah. When they're playing the first team corners, I highly doubt that because he's gonna when that comes out, and I don't know what team he's gonna be with, but you know what's gonna likely happen if he does play with the first team Jets. Let's say he's gonna be the best wide receiver on the field. We'll see what happens, Luca.
Okay.
Some updates before I continue talking my trash. 3-3 between the Cardinals and the Cowboys. Buffalo won it by a field goal, 16-15, and the Tennessee Titans smoked the Atlanta Falcons by a score of 20.
What do you mean by a field goal, Alex? By an extra point?
No, it was by a field. It was literally by a field goal.
Okay, game-winning field goal. You could have just said that.
I said, you know what? You want to keep complaining? Go to the internet.
Okay.
Remember the Giant fans, and I know there's some in here. This guy here, he's been talking some shit. He's been saying that the New York Giants are the most overrated team in the NFL this year.
They literally are.
Let's talk that shit. Come on.
You have to win games before you call yourself a good team. You have to win game before you call yourself a good team. Let's see what they do on the field. They could lose.
You said Ali said 6 to 8 wins. How do you justify that?
What, for the Jets?
Yeah.
Well, I know we said that, and that's possible. For me,
it's not possible.
Their floor is 5 wins. Their ceiling is 8. I'm telling you, for a team with expectations, do well first, win first, and then we can talk.
Do we not have an easy schedule?
I'm not saying you don't or you do.
Have you ever told Sean this about the Steelers?
His team is literally the goddamn same. Hold on, let me explain. His team is literally having
the playoffs for 2 years in a row. You're telling me they're the same.
How do I describe it? His team.
Steelers, by the way, guys.
His team. How do I describe it? It's literally like a downgrade in expectations for them, at least.
So let's ask a question here: who gets more wins, the Steelers or the Giants?
You want me to do playoff predictors right now and compare the two?
I thought you already had. Don't you have it open? Yes, no, maybe so.
I have it open. I did the Steelers. I'm going to do the Giants right now.
Go ahead. Yeah.
All right. Let me share the screen.
So you see, okay, fine.
Let me share screen.
Go ahead. Go ahead. So you're talking all this trash. So the Titans are not overrated. The Cardinals are not overrated. Come on.
It said the Cardinals are overrated.
Yeah, but you're saying that the Giants are more overrated.
Win, loss.
You're not going to have Michael Thomas, but you're going to tell me that they're going to lose. Okay.
Okay, you know what? I'll change that.
Oh, yeah.
Loss.
Yeah. Peer pressure.
Win, loss, loss.
Luca, really? You're kidding, right? What the hell are the Bears going to do?
They have a great defense. And Justin Fields is going to look much better than he was earlier in the season.
Okay. Yeah, okay.
But that's a winnable game for the Giants. Win, loss, win.
Hold on. Let me say this lack of fucking bunch of shit right here. Fill it out. I'm going to critique you. Anyone in the chat is feel free to critique him too, because he's pulling stuff out of his ass at this point.
All right, so Giants going to go for a full sweep. There you go, 9-8.
So you're telling me they get no, not 9-8. Hold on? Let's see. Okay, Miami, we could win. Okay, so maybe
no. I believe Miami's winning.
We'll see about that. I don't see us sweeping Philly. I realistically, I think we should, but I don't know. With the fact that you have us losing to the Bears is the biggest insult of the night. Why are the Bears going to do better than we?
Because
we have a better defense.
That's because your fan base is an insult.
Because I'm a what?
That's because your fan base is a goddamn insult to football.
Luca, you just spoke to how many Giants fans? I'm going to clip this and put it on Twitter and then see how they like you. Fan base is an insult. Literally, the Bears are literally one of the more people talking about them getting 10 wins. We should take care of the Bears. Thank you, Authentic. This guy is pulling shit out of his ass right now, telling us that we're not going to beat the Bears with Andy Dalton or a rookie quarterback.
It's calm down. It's a goddamn upset.
They cut their 2 tackles. Sure, they have that one.
They could always develop their 2.
So what? So you're telling me guys that they picked later in the draft are going to develop faster than Andrew Thomas did in his rookie year? Come on.
I never said that.
That's basically what you're saying. Oh, you developed those two because
You know what,
obviously you're saying that
let
the
me
Bears are
relook,
going to have
okay?
a winning
Let me relook.
strategy. How are the Bears going to be? The Bears are literally the
Let
Broncos.
me
at this point.
relook. Okay.
Oh, we're going to relook now, guys. We're going to relook.
Let me see what I can change.
Oh, yeah, I can change.
I don't know how you believe you're going to win against Washington.
Wait, what are you talking about?
Week 2.
If we win against the Broncos and they lose
Bullshit.
if they win against, excuse me, you're having me fucked up right now. I think Authentic was actually the one who said this at FanFest. If the Giants beat the Broncos and Washington loses to the Chargers week 1, you can count us for a win.
That's such a bullshit.
How's that bullshit?
Because you know what? I'm going to pull back from 2016. Jets played on Sunday, week 1 against the Bengals. They lost.
Okay.
And then they ended up winning week 2 against the Bills. Authentic has something to say.
I don't think it's an automatic win, but if we play to our talent level, we should win. Giants have beat Washington 5 times in a row. I do agree with that. Agree with that assessment. But Clown Bozo here obviously doesn't, hold on. Let's do something real quick. Let's do something.
The Washington's the goddamn king of your division.
No, they're not. That first sentence about the Bears. Okay. But no, Luca, how are we not beating the Bears?
Okay, hold on. I might reconsider.
Oh, reconsider. They're having at least 10 wins.
9. At least 9.
More than 9. Well, tell me realistically how the Bears are going to beat us.
They'll stifle your offense with their defense.
Okay, so they lost their corner in Kyle Fuller this year.
Okay, you know what? Fine.
Yeah, peer pressure. That sounds a lot like peer pressure.
There you go. You and Sean can now argue why I put your teams at 10 and 7. But Sean's gonna be like, "Oh, just don't count the Steelers out."
Steelers are not doing anything this year, please. Steelers,
I have them tied with the Browns for second. But
no, they're gonna be in third. They're gonna be in third. I'm sorry, Sean loves the Steelers. He'll run into a wall for the Steelers, but they're not necessarily going to be good. My opinion.
Offensive line is trash.
And you know what? They're too much drops on offense make them look even worse. Note the fact that they have an aging quarterback. It's like having Eli Manning there. They're literally ruining the guy's legacy if he has one. But Luca, if you want to, you can start going over the Knicks game tonight. I know you watched some of it. After that, we'll start to wrap things up here on the Boys Big Apple podcast.
It's cool. All right, so the Knicks tonight took their second loss of the Summer League by a score of 93-87. The biggest deficit of the Knicks was like somewhere around 20, I believe. Obi Toppin had an excellent night. He shot 13 of 20 from the field, 2 of 5 from downtown, and put up 31 points with 9 rebounds. Quentin Grimes showed out a little bit today. He shot 6 for 10, 15 points, 3 for 6 from downtown. Finally, his game is starting to come alive quickly. Didn't have a great night. Had trouble facilitating and took too many floater shots instead of driving and penetrating in the paint, trying to go for layups. He was 4 of 18 from the field, 15 points, and 2 of 7 from downtown. So not one of his better nights. Miles McBride also struggled. 2 of 14 from the field with 4 points. There's no really other player of note for the Knicks, but for the Detroit Pistons, Cade Cunningham had a game, 8 for 14, 24 points, 7 of 10 from downtown, as he is the number 1 overall pick, quite obviously. Jamorko Pickett was 7 of 10 from the field, 18 points, 4 for 4 from downtown. Sadiq Bey had a solid game, a solid 3-point shooter, 6 of 14 from the field with 15 points and 13 rebounds. Let me see here. Saban Lee, 15 points, 2 of 9 from the field. So that pretty much covers the Knicks game. The Knicks will play the Cleveland Cavaliers tomorrow. I believe at 7 or 8.
Okay.
And to cover around the rest of the NBA Summer League tonight, The Minnesota Timberwolves beat the Milwaukee Bucks 91-64. The Utah Jazz beat the Miami Heat 84-65. The New Orleans Pelicans beat the Cavaliers 87-74. The Golden State Warriors beat the Oklahoma City Thunder 94-84. The Sacramento Kings beat the Memphis Grizzlies 90-75, and the Los Angeles Clippers are losing to the Los Angeles Lakers 52-46, quarter 3, 5:38 to go. And the Lakers are Ali's team.
That's interesting. You want to make some final thoughts about tonight? As I said, it's 10-3. The Cardinals lead. Chris Stravler is now the quarterback.
Yeah, they had a rushing touchdown.
Yeah, that was Eno Benjamin. I think he was. I think he was a guy. I think it was this year that the Giants were keeping their eyes on in terms of a running back. I think he was. I want to say he was gone by the time they picked. But Luca, you want to make some comments about tonight?
Very fun night. Getting to discuss football with the Hub and Ali. I love what Ali does over at Loyal NYJet Fans. Is that he can do a lot of things. He's not just a Jets beat reporter. Obviously, he does events for Giants, Mets, Yankees, whatever. I loved having Pete Simonetti on. He showed us a lot of support. His friends showed us a lot of support following us on Twitter. And, yeah, just having an overall fun baseball discussion.
Authentic says the QB had a big play for a 25-yard run, then trucked the safety.
Stravler, whatever his name is, trucked the safety.
Yeah, Dallas defense is going to reemerge, right? Speaking
Cooper
of
Rush is playing.
No surprise there. When I get back up, I'm probably going to catch that game because that's the only thing on right now, other than Summer League, of course. But thank you to all who came out tonight. If you're from Pete Simonetti's channel, if you're from the Hub, the Jets channel, Ali's Instagram, whatever, Twitter, thank you for coming out tonight. I really like the way tonight went, even though we're a little short. We usually go like 3 hours and 15 minutes. We're on 3 hours and 6, but that's no problem. I thought we had a really fun night where we didn't run out of things to talk about. We talked about a lot of stuff with Pete in terms of the state of the Yankees, where we're keeping it real. If you guys haven't already, check out all their social media and the YouTube stuff in the description. Pete had a rant last night, hashtag kindness corns. That was funny. And then Ali and the Kush and the Hub came on, and we talked some football, some realistic football. We didn't talk that much trash. We did at the end, me and Luca. But with that being said, we were fair. We were not biased, and we actually had a fair assessment of both teams. I could say that I was unbiased. I said the Giants would win some, the Jets would win some. It's definitely going to be a weird approach how they take tomorrow. I'm going to try to watch it the best as I can because I will be at somebody's going away party, that being my aunt. Hopefully I can watch it. I'll probably do it via TV if they allow us. If not, it's going to be via the Giants app or NBC Sports, whatever. It's going to be via the Giants app, so that's probably the way I'm watching. I need some mobile data because it's about an hour 50 trip from upstate. But it's going to be a weird thing. It's going to be an interesting thing how they do tomorrow. Basically, the Giants-Bears game from 2 years ago, how Matt Nagy didn't put in the ones. He put in the twos, and the Giants put in the ones. So that was fun to discuss. Obviously, all are welcome back on the channel. Shouts to Authentic, Manny, Jason, Adam King, John, and some of the other people in the chat. I think Joseph Bobby as well. But if you guys haven't already, hit that like button, comment, and subscribe. Turn on that notification button so you get notified when a live stream pops video drops. We'll let you guys know about next week's show. It's not going to return on Monday next week. I will be in Jersey for my 18th birthday weekend. I will be taking a bit of a break, most likely, within that span because, I would like to watch the first preseason game, then record some roster bubble videos and make fair assessments. And then later on in the week, it's either going to be Friday or just a week off for the Boys in Big Apple podcast. If we do go live next Friday, though, for the podcast, Sean will be rejoining us and we'll be talking some football, baseball, and all that other good stuff as well. And then likely after next week, we will be returning back to Mondays. So from me and Luca and others, peace out, guys. Have a good night. Let's go, Giants.
Let's go, Jets.
No, fuck the Jets.
No, fuck the Giants.
No, fuck you. Have a good night, everybody. We'll see you later.